You are listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Surlana.
32 minutes, 21 seconds. 5-second tone followed by a 1-second pause.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Okay, gang, let's go.
From the space city called Houston, Texas, welcome to Spaceboy Universe, featuring Spaceboy and the lovely Surlana. So strap in and prepare for launch sequence.
Greetings and salutations, I am Spaceboy.
I'm Surlana.
And this is Spaceboy Universe. It is February 25th, 2017, and tonight there is no guest, but we will be talking about Linda Molton Howe, and we'll take your calls. As always, follow us on Twitter, that's at the SB Universe. Follow Surlana at Surlana. You can follow me, Spaceboy, at Spaceboy Music, but also follow the network, that's at the SBU Network. Remember to hashtag your tweets tonight with hashtags SB Universe and hashtag Space Cadets. Want to hang out with said Space Cadets? You can do so by going to spaceboyuniverse.com and clicking on the dancing chat bubble in the player, and that'll get you in with all the cool kids. In addition to Twitter, you can find the universe on Facebook, Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Just look for Spaceboy Universe. You know, speaking of YouTube, you can find more than the Spaceboy Universe of archive of shows. There is video content from Spaceboy Music, video interviews, 2-Bit Gamers, and so much more. Can't catch the show live? No problemo. Take the SBU on the go with you via Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, because we love to broadcast. And at this magical note, let me introduce you back to my lovely co-host, Surlana. How are you tonight?
Hey, what's going on?
Wow, that's...
Don't cough.
Well, I mean,
just act normal for crying out loud.
It's hard to act normal when you're like, wow, that was like kind of in my face kind of thing. You know, normally it's like, hey, whatever. I'm filing my nails over here, but you brought your A game. That's good.
Well, now you've over-discussed it, and now I will have to punish you.
I'm sure you will. You'll find some way to deal with me, and because I'm, I have my moments.
Anyway, so before we get into anything, Can I make? I was contacted by Russ Emanuel, who we interviewed a while back. He is an independent filmmaker, and the reason I was interested in him is because a lot of his independent films star one of my favorite people in the whole world, which is Robert Picardo, who played the hologram doctor on Star Trek Voyager.
Yes.
So, he's got a new independent film out called The Assassin's Apprentice. And it's got Tara Page, Marina Sirtis from The Next Generation, and Robert Picardo.
Yeah.
So he wanted to everyone to know that he has an Indiegogo campaign to fund this. And
do you have
I've shared that information on my Twitter and the Spaceboy Universe Twitter. So if you'd like to go and help fund that, it would be a really cool thing.
So just recapping, Surlana, that's at Surlana, or you could do at the SB Universe. So either one of those, correct?
Yes.
That's awesome. Anything else you want to put out there? I know you've got
There
things burning?
will be another announcement tonight, but I'm going to make you wait till the end of the show.
What?
That way we guarantee somebody will listen all the way to the end.
That's just terrible, Surlana. You make it sound like K28's not going to listen to all the way to the end. He'll listen to the end. Oh, so,
You act like he's the only listener.
Well, you act like we only have one listener. So, but with that going back and forth, tonight, Surlana, we do have some swag to give away.
I didn't know that.
I posted a picture of what said swag. We're giving away a Space Cadet.
An actual Space Cadet?
Yeah, and it's
yes, we've kidnapped one of our listeners, and now we're going to auction them off.
We're going to be giving away K28 tonight. No, in all seriousness, it's a Funko Pop. And,
I didn't get a picture of it.
And you can go ahead and get a picture of it. I posted a picture, but, if you want to do your thing.
Of course, it wants to focus on the poster behind your head.
It's if you've ever seen Duck Dodgers. And classic, Warner Brothers. Porky Pig is the Space Cadet. And I just so happened to secure a whole box of these at a reasonable price. And tonight I'm giving one of these wonderful Space Cadets away. And I don't know. We'll figure out who wins it. Usually it's like, send your emails to stuff@spaceboyuniverse.com. That's stuff@spaceboyuniverse.com. And some lucky Space Cadet will get the Space Cadet, and it can be yours. Speaking of other swag stuff, I wonder if Dino got his music CD.
Well, maybe we'll find out if he pops up.
Hopefully he'll call in. Let's see, what else do I have here while we're kind of looking over everything? Gordon Roop sent me a picture on Facebook of Gene Hackman. It's a early picture, but he called it Gene Wilder, and cracked me up. So thanks, Gordon. I appreciate it. Knew I could count on you for fun and giggles. So, let's talk about some things here, Surlana.
Okay.
And wow,
I
don't know what just happened there. Like the power just dipped.
Did you see? That's happened before. It's really strange.
Mm-hmm.
It gets strangely quiet.
It's a power fluctuation of some kind, and I'm a little bit bothered by that. So,
it's noticeable. I don't know if anybody else can hear that, but that's very odd.
All right, we'll continue on. We'll just have to keep noticing. I mean, it is something that started happening when we did John's show, and the power just kind of like doo. And then it came back gradually up, and then we're back in pain. So, anyway, let's continue on.
Maybe I should start paying bills.
Well, that would be a good start. So, our friend, UFO Jane, on her site, has posted an interesting article of something that's happening here in Houston, Texas area. Do you have more information on that? Or?
Oh, wait a minute.
Caught you off guard, didn't I?
Yeah. Hold on one second.
Well, our friend, UFO Jane, if you don't know her site, it's TexasUFOsighting.com is the place to go. You've probably seen some of the advertisements that we've put out through social media, and the way to get to her and her stories, and quite interesting. Wow, there's this picture that she has on here of one of the, looks like, what do you call it, praying mantis alien?
I don't like that.
Yeah, it's kind of freaky looking.
I don't like that at all.
So, but anyway.
Yeah, so this supposedly happened over Cyprus, and Cyprus is, from where we are right now, is it directly north?
Yeah.
It's one of these little outskirt towns. It's technically still Houston, but apparently there was a mystery orb sighting in the sky, but it was also in Irving, Dallas-Fort Worth, and Copper Canyon, Texas. And she said it was a bright, white, star-like object hovering and making slight movements. So, I don't know what this could be. There's a real big close-up image of it. It's one that looks low on the horizon. It was that somebody said it was definitely not an airplane because it moved side to side and up and down.
Was that an airplane or
airplane?
Okay.
And it would go bright to dim and then back again.
So
spinning.
My question is, it didn't look natural. I mean, in the sense of, helicopter, airplane.
It didn't interrupt air traffic that they saw. And I I called someone who works on the ramp at the AA to see if the operation had been interrupted, and they said the operations at the airport had not been interrupted. Mm-hmm. Orb rotating, spinning, high rate of speed made the little object disappear. Maybe something broke off from that. You hear reports about there'll be an orb of light, and then maybe something will break off from it.
Right.
Like a little baby.
Or something. How they like a dripping effect too. I've heard sometimes in some of these cases.
We'll actually get into some of that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm. We will. I was just looking at the map on this, and there's like 4 things that she's pinned on Texas, and then there's all the way out into Los Angeles area. And I thought that was pretty interesting. Is that you get a lot of these sightings here, and then there's a sighting all the way out onto
there's
the
one
West
way
Coast.
Down in Laredo.
Oh, okay.
That's on the border.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with Laredo.
Well, some other listeners may not be.
Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, it's interesting that a lot of these orb sightings have taken place. Yeah, I do see that on the map now that I'm looking at it. Taking place here in Texas, and so at some point we probably want to get UFO Jane back on the show, and just talk about any kind of updates that she has. Get into that freaky looking alien of the praying mantis thing that she's got on there. I know
you keep harping on that.
Well, because it's kind of freaky. I mean, first,
it's just a representation.
Yeah, still. But if I saw that, I think that but the Greys are one thing. The Nordics is another thing. I could handle Nordics. Greys,
you've gotten used to seeing that pop culture.
Probably.
Nordics
yes.
are supposed to be human-like but tall. But
and then the Greys.
Sentient insects are disturbing beyond belief.
Oh, yeah.
To think about.
It is very. So anyway, yeah, thanks to UFO Jane. And like always, go and reach out to her at TexasUFOsightings.com. Let her know that the universe mentioned her, and
and that you like her due diligence.
Yes. What's her motto? I believe it's like you report, I investigate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. Wow, I can't believe
she's good.
Yes.
I like it.
Yeah, she's a great person. Yeah, so the universe.
Maybe we'll talk to her soon.
Yeah, universe loves her. She'll be back.
Yeah,
right?
We just had we've got another booked month ahead of us. So
yeah, so that's cool. The orbs, and so speaking of orbs, you know what look like orbs in the sky?
What?
I know we're both.
I can't read.
I'm sorry, my handwriting. It's
just that I'm old. My prescription's old.
We need to get you some new glasses.
And
anyway, planets.
Yeah. Oh.
This week, I guess NASA built it up to
not a logical leap.
well, orbs. Spherical objects in the sky, or whatever.
Yeah. So there's something that Jane talked about too on her site, and a lot of other people. So they have discovered 7 supposedly habitable planets that maybe could have the kind of atmosphere and surface conditions to support life.
Mm-hmm. And they're all in that Goldilocks zone, even the planets that are kind of on the outskirts, of being a little bit warm and a little bit cold, they're still supposedly, and I don't know how they come to this conclusion other than being able to measure the light from such a far distance, whether it's it's habitable but not. But even the star that's situated in this solar system. Is not like our star. It's not that big. It's definitely smaller, but it's still enough to generate enough heat for the planets that are in that solar system. And I believe the distance from Earth is 29 light years. I think I saw that somewhere, and that's not too big of a leap if if we had reasonable drives. I mean, granted, if you had a light drive. Thing, you'd probably want faster than light, FTL, to get to something like that. But think of it as the generational ship thing, like when we were talking about the moon, possibly as a generational ship thing.
Well, that's all well and good, but let's talk about the deeper stuff going on here. Why NASA, as Jane pointed out in the video when she was talking about it, NASA had this conference and they said now is a great time to discover these things. She was like, Why? Why's now?
Right.
Why
not?
What is it they're not telling us?
Exactly.
They know something. They're like trying to gently guide us towards something.
I think that when I heard them announce this, it kind of goes back to the old expression, if it quacks like a duck, it must be a duck.
And they're getting
like,
ready to...
What are you're not telling us something.
Yeah. I have a theory about that, but...
What's your theory?
They're getting ready for some big lie they're going to tell us.
Lie? And you don't think that they're going to just finally just say, hey, this is what's been going on this whole time. We're in space. And
No. They're gonna make it look like, ooh, look what we just found. And they've known about it for 20 years.
And another thing I felt like when I listened to them talk about this was, here's planets that we can actually go to, and if we need to leave Earth for some reason. Okay, it goes back to, what are they not telling us? And so it's interesting. I mean, I think it's cool that they found these planets. But what bothers me also when they say, hey, we discovered these planets, of how accurate they can say, well, this planet has got ice and it's got water, and it can, we can probably mine this planet for resources of water and stuff.
You think we're going to start go conquering the galaxy?
Well, it depends on your point of view. I mean, if you believe in the fact that we've already got ships already out there, then think of it on the terms of like Stargate, that kind of thing. Secret space.
The thing is, well, I don't know what you and I are watching or are looking at, but real life is never as cool as anything we've seen. Predicted or in Star Trek or anything. It's always going to be flat, boring, and disappointing.
Well, I mean, what can you do? You can just kind of go with the flow, or maybe you could just stay here on Earth and live in a virtual world. Speaking of virtual world.
Oh, man, you are just smooth tonight. Oh, look at you.
I hope that the rest of the programming is like this.
Yeah.
So, speaking of programming and virtual reality, Rockstar Games, a rock band, has come out with a virtual version of like their Guitar Hero kind of like
That's
thing.
like a competitor to Guitar Hero is Rock Band.
What's cool about this is you slap on the head, the Oculus Rift is what they're using, and you can pretend that you're playing with musicians and everything, and it's Rock Band. And
that should revitalize that.
Kind of give it a new twist on it. I think it's kind of cool in the sense that, let's say you suffer from anxiety or something like that, or getting in front of crowds. Could you imagine going ahead and playing, with virtual musicians and making, give the experience? In other words, we're this much closer to the holodeck kind of thing, and have a virtual thing where you never perform in front of an audience, right? But then you virtually get a chance to do that. I think that's awesome. So, VR today and hologram.
You see the videos where people are playing, with the VR on their headset, and they're playing some scary, and somebody comes up next to them and just touches them.
Yeah, I have seen it, or they rip the controller, or they hit something, and some of those are pretty funny.
I love it when they put it on, people will take the headset and they'll put it on their grandma, and they're all freaked out.
Mm-hmm. Those videos are pretty funny. I know we watch a lot of those videos, but you know what's really good is a good movie. And, although some people are kind of hesitant of these reboot movies, I've heard and seen talk about Doom being rebooted. And
like from the game?
Well, not from the game, but, we went from TV to movies and like to watch movies. Some might say that's a segue into the next topic. Dune.
D-U-N-E, not Doom. Okay,
yeah.
Dune.
But, I might be doomed into being suckered into VR. But
I never saw the original Doom, but I know what it is. I'm aware of it.
The spice is the life.
Yeah, I'm aware of the
and sticking them
catchphrases.
Things up, they had these suits. That,
no, Sting was in it.
Sting, Patrick Stewart, Dean Stockwell. I mean, there was a lot of famous people in this. I can't think of the other guy that was on It'll come to me later.
But do you think it needs rebooting? Like redoing?
Well, it's...
Did you surely you must have seen it.
Oh, I did.
Back in the day.
It was decent. I was early teens, when it first came out. But, those are the series of movies. Like, you had that movie, and you had Blade Runner, and, Alien. That kind of all came out about that same time period. And now, what do we have? We have a continuation of the movie Alien in its different form coming soon to a theater near you called Alien Covenant, which is the next movie of 3, as I understand it. You have Blade Runner that's going to be coming out.
I need to go back and review the original.
And
I was too young.
So it just makes sense that they would bring that back out as a reboot or retooling or whatever for a new generation. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's a pretty epic story. If it could be told just right, then I think it would be successful. It's grandioso in the sense of storytelling.
I get Dune and Tremors mixed up.
Well,
It's sad, I know.
That's funny that, they're kind of like almost the same, except I wouldn't want to be in Tremors, so. But I heard that they were making another Tremors movie.
Tremors never stops.
Yeah, it keeps on going, and I laughed at the one.
As long as there's actors that will, I guess, take $20 for acting.
That's the dad from Family Ties that keeps coming back for that.
Does he really?
Yeah, he's coming back for this.
You'd think he'd find something to do.
Well, if they keep, how they say, if they'll pay you.
I do remember Kyle MacLachlan.
There you go.
He was like the front and center of Dune, but the only thing I remember about him is like still images, and my gosh, was that his real hair? It was fabulous.
It was good. Blue Velvet, he was in that one with...
Never saw that. How was his hair in that?
Another fabulous moment. He played in this...
He must just have fabulous hair, naturally.
This is for the audience. This is a rare movie. If you can find this movie, it's called The Hidden. And he's in this movie, and apparently there's these aliens that I guess they crawl into your mouth or whatever and take possession of your body. But they're good aliens. Like and supposedly his character in this movie dies, and so the alien goes into him and kind of uses his body to catch this other bad alien.
Weird.
It's really interesting. It's called The Hidden. If you can find it, you should definitely check it out. I think it is a pretty cool sci-fi thing.
We now have officially 3 James in the chat.
Wow, that's...
So it's a 3 James night, like a 3-dog night.
Yeah. But yeah, The Hidden, if you can find that movie, great. So, Surlana, we're all about history here. And, do you know what happened on this day in history?
I do, because I told you.
They don't need to hear about that. Just tell me what... and I've got something else interesting.
On this day in history, was it 1964?
Yes, in 64.
That Cassius Clay defeated his opponent, whose name escapes me.
And who is Cassius Clay for the young folks out there?
Well, that's his... he was born Cassius Clay, but I think he converted to Islam and became Muhammad Ali.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of old films like from the 40s, 50s. And apparently, this day in history, actor Robert Mitchum is released after serving time for marijuana possession, which is kind of interesting. I bring this one up because, of the relevancy and how marijuana is becoming such legal just about everywhere, But back in the late 40s, Robert Mitchum was famous for the original Cape Fear and Night of the Hunter, and I guess he was smoking at a small party in Laurel Canyon, the area around Los Angeles, when detectives bursted in and arrested him. He ended up, pleading guilty on the situation, although the subject matter, the time there was kind of like inconsistencies in the whole thing, but he decided to plead guilty and served 60 days in jail and several years of probation. And so, but I bring it up because I think it's interesting in the sense of where we're at now when it comes to legalizing marijuana. I'm at the point where I've discussed this with you in the sense that, just go ahead and legalize it and just, control it like alcohol or cigarettes or whatever.
They could make a ton of money off the tax, I suppose.
I mean, I'm not against any of that. And, of course, my parents were hippies, so, I'm kind of more lenient when it comes.
You were exposed to it, I guess.
I was, in the 420 kind of way, I guess. So, where does that leave us? I guess that covers all that. Is there anything that's been, I've been watching Netflix, trying to bone up on my show watching. I just saw this one with Drew Barrymore in it, Santa Carla Diet, something like that, where she turns into some kind of zombie. And it's got the guy from, oh man, I can't believe I forgot his name. It's one of those things. I'm cruising and all of a sudden I was out of gas like that armadillo we saw on the side of the road. But it's got the guy from, well, it doesn't matter. The fact is, it was a halfway decent show. I didn't like the way it ended in the sense that they could have probably done one more episode. Hopefully there's going to be another season 2 to it. And that should be interesting. So if you can get a chance, check out Netflix. We got the chance to see finally Doctor Strange the other day,
and it was like, It was one of those. It's the first, so it's an establishing movie, establishing the character, and they're usually kind of except for Deadpool.
Well, I know you just love Deadpool, but they set the Doctor Strange up where he's going to be in the next Thor movie.
Oh, Dan James says it's Santa Clarita Diet.
Thank you, James.
James.
And what did you think, James? Did you like it, Dan James? Just binge watched it. So if you binge watched it, you must have liked it some way, because you don't binge watch something unless it's halfway decent.
Unless you've paid for it and you think, well, I'm going to get my money's worth out of it.
Well, that is true, because I watched the, Madam Secretary, and got through all that and found out that I think they're canceling that. And guess what channel it's on? Or who promotes it?
NBC?
No. CBS.
Oh, well.
Home of
disappointments.
Of disappointments. NBC was the home of major disappointments.
Well, they own Comcast, don't they?
Well, you don't have to bring that up. We don't need our internet.
We don't need our internet cut.
Yeah, he said, Dan James says he loved it. Yeah, so it's you should definitely check it out, and it's pretty decent. I know there's some more good stuff coming our way on Netflix, and I'll report when those things come up. So let's see, what else what else happened this week, Surlana? That anything major? Well, we had the major rain on Monday.
Yes, we finally dried out. Mm-hmm. It's like big blue skies, no clouds, sunshine. If you're into that sort of thing, this is your kind of weather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's see here.
It was only in the 60s for most of the day.
Today was pleasant. It was a nice decent day. We went to do our taxes today, and ka-ching! Oh, we got some money back. That's always good, right?
Yeah, I'm still skeptical that this is all going to happen.
Well, I'm taking a positive spin, because tomorrow we're going to have to spend some money working on one of our vehicles and getting that all fixed up. But
it's just a matter of safety.
Well, when you've driven a car for, what is it, 100 and...
There's over 130,000 miles on it.
I mean, we put some miles on that. Some of that miles was 2 years to contact in the desert.
Yeah, so we'll be saving some miles by not going.
You're so adorable. So on that magical note, shall we take our break and get started with the show? Mm-hmm. It's not like we didn't start the show. We're started already, but let's get into our subject matter. So you're listening to Spaceboy Universe. Don't go anywhere.
This is author Gordon Root. You are listening to the Spaceboy Universe.
This is K28, and I'm listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Hi, y'all. This is Lori calling from Texas, and I love listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Hey, this is Dave Cruz, host of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to Spaceboy Universe.
This is Wendy. I'm listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Hey, y'all. This is Lorelai DeLille. I listen to Spaceboy Universe. Don't you? Tell your mom and them I said hi.
The epic battle begins this Friday. Direct from ringside at Laser Death Melt. It's Bot versus Bot in Galaxy's 2-ton weight championship, where your challenger, Good Bot, will face the reigning champion, Bad Bot. You're terminated. Reserve seating starting at $30. 2-drink minimum, where ladies don't get in free. This is an SBU production. You're listening to Spaceboy Universe.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Surlana.
Ever seen an extraterrestrial? It can be hard to believe they exist unless you've seen one for yourself. What if I told you I've seen them my whole life, but have never had a witness who shared the encounter with me? Now, what if I told you I saw 4 of them, 2 with blue skin, and there are over 20 witnesses to this CE5 event? My new book, The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, documents actual accounts from real witnesses, many of which have gone on record to attest to this otherworldly reality. Be a part of the quantum paradigm shift that is taking place right now. Go to johnpolkmedia.com to get your copy of The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, on sale right now at johnpolkmedia.com. That's JOHNPOLK media.com.
Hello Space Cadets. It is announcer Savannah. I want to tell you that as a dedicated member of the SBU team, you always want to look your best. Do it in a Spaceboy Universe t-shirt. Get yours at spaceboyuniverse.com by clicking the banner on the website.
Greetings, Space Cadets! Let's see what's in the sky tonight in the Spaceboy Universe. Tonight, in the eastern sky, we have Spaceboy Universe rising above the horizon in glorious splendor. And in the west, we can see Surlana's Majoris, which is visible at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, just below the K28 belt. So keep your eyes on the sky and listen to Spaceboy Universe.
I like that song.
I do too.
The song's name is called Crash. It's off my latest CD or album, however you want to call it in this digital age. Unique Technique. And the funny thing about that, just a quick story, and before we get into our topic, is that we like to watch. We're not the normal TV watchers, and now we watch a lot of YouTube, and part of that is that we like to watch Russian car crashes. And so out of that, there was a car crash where I guess an electronic device went off. Well, you're shaking your head, and
stop looking at me.
Ignore me.
There's no need to look at me.
Well, I kind of have to pace myself by looking at you. But anyway, so, and plus when you do the Kermit the Frog thing, you're telling me I'm going too long-winded on some subject matter. But anyway, back to the story is that the crash the car flipped upside down and had some kind of collision notification thing, and it went beep beep, whatever. And you encouraged me, or no, I think I heard it, I said, that would make
You get inspired by some crazy things.
I do get inspired by crazy things, and it's just the world that, or shall I say, the universe I live in. So, yeah, Crash is the name of that song, and you should definitely check it out by getting the Spaceboy Universe, not Spaceboy Universe, Spaceboy Music CD album. Unique technique. 17 wonderful tracks of music that I produced this past year, and I've already started working on the next album. Can you believe it? And but yeah, $10. Can't beat that with a stick. Well, I guess you could, especially if you're Surlana. If I'm looking at you weird and squirrely. Anyway.
I'm writing something down. I had an idea.
Oh well, speaking of that, Surlana, what is our topic tonight?
Well, we have not misled anyone, because we said we were going to talk about Linda Molton Howe. Yeah, Linda, not that she would be here. I don't know that we've got the street cred for that yet.
Linda is not here. We did reach out to her, but no reply. That doesn't mean anything. It means that she's probably busy. I mean, when we start to talk about her bio, and you see how many different things she's into.
I had to cut at least 2 pages from her bio just so we could get through the bio.
Yeah, so she's pretty extensive as far as when it comes to... I'm sorry, I was distracted by your sister in the chat.
What she said, trying to decide which SB CD to buy, and I'm like, well, you can get the friends and family flash drive discount, so you don't have to worry about that, because you have the benefit of being related.
That is true, but sorry, everyone.
Everyone else, you're going to have to pay up.
Yeah, you'll have to pay up. For sis, we can get her taken care of.
Yeah.
Let's make that happen.
Yep.
Get all 19 albums worth.
Just got to send me your mailing address to get that to you.
Okay, so.
All right, so
Linda
Molton Howe. Right. I first heard of her. Just not that long ago, maybe early 2000s or something. Not till I met you, really.
Well, I go back to the Art Bell days of listening to Linda and just intrigued by her reporting. In fact, it's interesting because I remember her shows. Yeah, her shows on Art Bell, where her reporting was done on cassette. And now she's all digital now. And I think it's just interesting how she's gone from that time of using cassette players and then doing what she does to a more
It'd be fun
digital.
To talk to her about that.
Yeah, so I'm intrigued by that and how the evolution of her, working with. It's kind of like when we sent Gordon some headphones, ushered Gordon into the 20th century.
Boy, did it really help, though.
Oh, my God, because we had so many problems.
I assume he's still using them.
I don't mean to talk ill of Gordon. We love Gordon. And we wanted
maybe his cell service provider isn't the best connection for him.
So we hooked him up with some headphones so that he could
be on Skype.
So he could be on Skype, and wow, it's a difference.
He went from intermittent, staticky dropouts to smooth Barry White,
So, but yeah, I was just using Gordon as an example of going from one end to the spectrum to the next end. With Linda, she's definitely one of those people that have made the effort to perfect her craft and to make it better, to get it out there. And as you're going to discover, and I guess what Surlana is about to pass on to you, is information-wise, is that the woman is prolific in everything. Did I lose you?
I'm just waiting for you.
Okay, well,
I don't interrupt.
I'm passing the ball to you.
Well, like I said, that's when I first heard about her. I didn't get into any of this stuff until I hooked up with you, and I'm still really not as into it. And I'm like, I can take it or leave this topic, the whole fringe topic, very easily. But I found some things that interest me that I can at least get into a discussion with you about.
Well, I appreciate the fact you do take some interest in the fringe topic.
And I can have an intellectual discussion with you and not believe it, but still accept other people's point of views and experiences. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And, there's a way to handle that and be respectful and professional. But back when I had first learned of her, I personally kind of dismissed her. as, oh, she's that lady that just reports on cattle mutilations. Mm-hmm. Well, I soon found out later on that, oh, she does so much more than that. So,
and even her beginnings are, so
right.
Yeah.
So she just updated her bio on earthfiles.com, which is her website, for this year. And fortunately, then that takes up about, let's see if you copy paste it, that's like 4 Word doc pages. Mm-hmm. So when I started getting into the subject matter with you, Fringe and the UFO thing and all that, and she's right in the middle of everything. Yeah. Her name is referenced, and she's on every show. She's on every, involved in everything.
Well, it goes back to those early people with Art Bell that, her, Richard Hoagland,
there's
Willie
a cast
Strieber.
of
there's
characters.
A core people, group of people that
the
Art
titans
Bell,
of ufology.
Exactly.
But, and every time that Linda's on a show, if that show has time, and she's a guest, they will read a long bio. And so a lot of us are familiar with that. So I'm just going to hit some of the highlights. So we know that she's a graduate of Stanford University. She has a master's in communications. Mm-hmm. And so she's devoted herself to documentaries for film, television, radio. She's done writing. She does reporting. She's got 4 books. And here's the thing. We could do a show on just how many awards she's won. Like if we just talk about the awards.
Yeah.
So she's got local, national, international awards. She's got regional Emmys, a national Emmy nomination. She's got a Peabody Award from a Boston station. She's got documentaries that have won awards. If you've heard of A Strange Harvest, that was, now see, that's the one where I started kind of dismissing her, but she's got so much more. That one explored the worldwide animal mutilation.
Before you
mystery.
go further, I'd like to circle back and get your thoughts on why you have some issues with that.
Why?
You were saying you had some issues with Strange Harvest, or
no?
Or what did I just hear you say? Okay, well, continue on. I must have heard you wrong then.
I never read it, so how can I have issues with it?
Oh, well, I mean...
Because her books are flippin' expensive.
Well, they're valuable.
Yeah, but I can't get that kind of money, so...
True.
But, but that's the one where she first explored this animal mutilation mystery, and if you get into it... Now, what's interesting is, if you get into that, she talks to this ranchers and the sheriff, and some of that is tied to Dulce. Mm-hmm. So some of this stuff is all tied together. If you just really pay attention, you can start, hooking up the links.
Well, it's kind of it's an interesting web, if you will, that she has woven a tapestry of just different things of people she's come across.
Well, as some of the things we'll discuss tonight, you'll see that if you really step back and look at these things, some of these things are connected. I don't see how they couldn't be. But what I found out was she was also a director, a producer of a station in Denver for a little while, and she received an award for doing something there. She's gotten film festival awards. Awards for contributions to public health for raising awareness. Hey, this month she's got a series on Gaia, the digital network Gaia, which is on our Roku, Truth Hunter.
Definitely want to check that out.
So you might check that out.
I've actually seen some previews on Facebook. You know how Facebook does sponsored whatever now, and it was promoting her new show on the Gaia network.
Yeah. So she's had Lifetime Achievement Awards last year at the Conscious Life Expo for her work on Ancient Aliens, I think. Also, she has her website, earthfiles.com, which has won some web awards. But my gut instinct is when I go to her website, it's like, I kind of wish I could get my hands on it so I can make it updated looking. But, if it's working for her, who am I to say?
And in full disclosure, for those listeners who don't know, Surlana has been a long-time web designer.
But I'm getting tired of it.
But yet...
I like to leave it.
Which is kind of hard because...
But I still have that,
I had a system set in place for not making you angry because you have Tourette's when it comes to web designing. But anyway...
You cannot go into web development or web design or UI or UX and not curse your blue streak. You just... There's no freaking way. Unless you're just on the heaviest medications possible. I mean... Anyway, so, of course, we're all used to hearing her on Coast to Coast AM because she's been on there for, I don't know, maybe how long that show's been on the air?
At least mid-90s, that I know of. That's how I discovered her.
She's also on KGRA where she co-hosts a show with somebody we'll talk about tonight, retired USAF Tech Sergeant John Burroughs. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about who he is and why he's significant. And as I said, she's written 4 books: An Alien Harvest, Glimpses of Other Realities, Volumes 1 and 2, Mysterious Lights and Crop Circles. And she did those earlier in the part of the century. Again,
Which, incidentally, the Volumes 1 and 2... concern U.S. military intelligence and civilian testimonies about non-humans interacting with human life, Earth life, basically.
I think one of the things she did that was very significant was in 2013, she participated as a journalist witness, and she was speaking before several retired U.S. congressional panelists at the 2013 citizen hearing at the National Press Club, where she talked about military and intelligence eyewitnesses that had physical evidence that confirm interaction of non-humans with Earth, that these facts were suppressed by the U.S. Policy of denial since World War II. I actually will touch on that a little bit later.
As a footnote, I think Stan Friedman was a part of that group,
Stan Friedman?
Yeah, Stan Friedman.
Yeah. Same guy.
Yes.
Again, she's honored with more awards in 2013. Award for Excellence in Research and Production. And another significant thing that happened, it's just not quite in order chronologically, I apologize. June 2012, she traveled with Robert Schoch, PhD, geologist, to Turkey to go to a 12,000-year-old site called Göbekli Tepe. Mm-hmm. It's an archaeological site. It's very significant, and doesn't it predate just about everything?
Just about everything. They just don't understand. It's basically...
And it's an enigma.
A city that was just buried, and they started to uncover it, and, I mean, it's...
Things that don't...
It just doesn't...
Readily apparently make sense yet to us.
Nothing makes sense out of that, yes.
So, again, she's awarded with Courage in Journalism Award at National Press Club. She... now, in 2010, we'll talk about this, too. She traveled to the Royal Air Force Bentwaters Woodbridge site in England to talk about what happened in December 1980, and we'll talk about that later. So that was a significant thing. She, like I said, we had those books. Let's see. She had another award in 2013. She just awards. Mm-hmm. Let's see. She also helped co-produce the series Sightings. Do you remember Sightings?
Oh, man, I love that.
Sci-Fi before it went to
it was Sci-Fi.
FY.
Yeah, oh, man, don't get me started on that. But
well,
yeah,
don't.
Yeah, so, yeah, Sightings. I love that show.
Some of her other television productions are The World of Chemistry for PBS, Earth Mysteries, Alien Life Forms. I reckon she's got something to do with Ancient Aliens.
Well, I know she's been on it, yeah, definitely.
She's done things for UNICEF. She's also, I think, active in trying to help endangered species. Mm-hmm. She works as director of international program for Earthbeat, which is an environmental series broadcast on Turner's WTBS Superstation in Atlanta. And, I mean, this could just go on and on and on and on and on. So it's she's multi-talented, award-winning, and I think what I like about her is, regardless of the subject matter, she goes after it. She doesn't seem like she's intimidated by anybody.
I don't think that she also doesn't, spin it in the sense that She
tells it like it is. And I'll get more into. I think the most I've ever heard be slightly perturbed. I'll talk about later.
Okay.
I'll talk about that much later, because I was feeling it too.
Oh, okay.
I've talked about this briefly before, but I'll go over it again in more detail later on.
And in all fairness, yes, I look forward to talking about that. But as far as overall,
get you all hopped up.
Yeah, yes. But overall, I mean, she has been there, done it, and then some. Mm-hmm. And of course, like I said, in the many interviews I've heard with her and Art Bell, I looked forward to those nights. Because you knew when Linda was coming on that she was gonna present an interesting tale or a subject matter, and through that process,
she's got all the knowledge, all her notes. She's got all the I's and dotted, T's crossed. I don't think you can put one over on her.
True, and like I was saying, through those interviews, she would come on, say, okay, this is what we're going to talk about. This is who I interviewed. It would go in through her pre-recorded interview, and then, her and Art would talk. And now, so many years later, she's still on Coast to Coast, and she's doing it with George Norrie. But the thing is that out of those sessions, that when she would come on the air, there would be people that would email her or try to get in touch with her and give her other cases and other things to look at.
I think she must get a lot of her information through anonymous people that email in
and then what I like about when she does follow up with, say, somebody in the service. Mm-hmm. She asks for their service records so that she can confirm that were you honorably discharged? Was it medical records or
she get to verify?
So, in other words, to build,
she doesn't take someone's word for it.
Yeah, she builds a case to make sure that the person is reputable, and in this field, you have to make sure who you're dealing with is reputable. I mean, the different things from cattle mutilations to alien, I guess, contactees or abductees, however you want to put into whatever category. She does take that extra mile to make sure that whoever she's talking to is legit, which reminds me of that video we watch of Mirage Men.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but not think of her during that program.
She's involved in that, and that's all tied back to Dulce again.
Mm-hmm. So that's what we're looking at with Linda. Any other things that might be in this big CV that you've given us tonight, Surlana?
No. I'm sorry, but I'm eager to get into it.
I'm sure you are. I just didn't want to take our break that early. But,
okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that's okay. But since you've already announced it to the audience, let's go ahead and take our break now, and then we'll have much more time to discuss Linda Molton Howe.
Time.
Yeah, so let's see here. How about Waiting for the Night? That sounds good. All right, we're back. Surlana, did you enjoy your tasty snack over there?
Well, I didn't get to finish it.
I'm sorry. So you're listening to the Spaceboy Universe, and I'm your host, Spaceboy, and...
Me.
Which is?
Surlana.
There you go. So when we last left, we were talking about Linda and her bio. So, this is the part where we start getting into some cool cases.
Well, first thing I've noticed, she started getting into it and intrigued me. Mm-hmm. And I think it is tied to some of the one of our previous shows. And I looked at her site today, and this is still going on, and it's still no definitive answers. Okay, the first one is the sky trumpets, or this, in case you're not familiar, is if you get on YouTube and you put in sky trumpets or whatever, strange sounds coming from the sky, however you want to put that in the search terms. But they're creepy as heck. Now, the definitive one, the first one that, I don't know if it's the first one, but it seems like it's the first one she talked about, is the one in Kiev. So, the sky trumpets in Kiev, and they do sound kind of biblical, for lack of a better explanation. And it just sounds like horns coming from the sky. I mean, loud. It doesn't sound like it's coming from a radio or the car. There's another one that is in Canada, in the forest, in if these are foresters or, some kind of, some kind of rangers out in the forest checking something out, but it's otherwise dead quiet, and you hear what sounds almost like a choir, like a throng, and I don't like it. I don't know what it is, but I don't like it.
Not to go all biblical here, it sounds to me like the horn blowing when they talk about Jericho and bringing the walls down kind of thing. Or the Brazilian soccer game where they're all playing them.
The vuvuzela.
Yeah, the vuvuzela.
Watch what you say there.
I know. It's like...
You know exactly what I'm thinking, don't you?
Remember, it's a PG related or PG show here. Okay.
Oh, but if it wasn't, the things I could say anyway.
But
now I have seen many of those specific ones with examples. But the one thing that gets to me, and I would love to know if she has seen this particular video, because it is somebody trying to say, hey, this is all that sound is. And it's a guy, or it could be a teenager that, and I can't remember what this is. It's in a suburb where, you can see the houses and whatnot. And he just walks through this little wooded area. And you can hear this loud, kind of high-pitched, horn-like sound. And he goes through this little wooded area, and you can hear him crunching in the leaves, and he's walking through the camera, and he gets closer, and the sound gets louder and louder and louder, and he gets up on it, and there is a flat concrete surface, and there is an earth mover, and the part that scoots up the dirt is just scraping the concrete, and it's emitting this high-pitched sound that almost sounds kind of like the horn sounds. And he's saying, this is all it is, it's construction.
See, that reminds me of all things of when we were watching Doctor Strange and the bonus features. And do you remember I forgot who was holding it. It was a bowl, and it was like this stick that when you take the stick and kind of rotate it around the rim of the bowl, it makes a certain pitched noise similar to the what you're hearing from that particular machine.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was very similar. So
you'll have to point
in other
that
words,
out sometime.
I guess what I'm getting at is sometimes certain metals will resonate and vibrate, and we've talked about frequencies before, where you have a machine-like device like that where it's vibrating and it's making the sound.
But why has no one? I mean, why does it like nothing, all of a sudden
It's
videos.
An explosion of everything kind of thing. And then, well, I hate to be the skeptic in this.
Bob says Tibetan singing bowl.
Yeah. See, Bob knows what I'm talking about. Or you can go to Kathmandu and find this thing. So
I wasn't saying you were wrong.
No,
it's not like Bob's on your side.
No, I'm not saying, we're all family here. Let's hug it out now. And but yeah, mechanical and nature. But you're right.
Do you have a position on that, or just the horn sounds we're talking about?
Okay, so we're not the.
I got to the second half of this.
Okay, overall, this is where I might have an issue. Is that we live in a time where things are faked, so that people can draw attention to them and say, "Hey, look at me, look at me." And maybe some of those...
What a foreign concept.
Some of those could be just faked. And what's interesting about this is, it's not a picture. What I'm getting at is Photoshop, right? Where some pictures are Photoshopped and some of them look like, wow, that is really good. I could believe that could be real. Well, with sound, it's not. You're having to rely on your hearing.
Is there a way to detect... If someone has a video, is there a way to detect that the sound has been... There's no way to detect the sound has been put in after the fact, or...
I'm sure that by looking at, somebody who's an audiophile like myself, I've seen, I've looked at a lot of WAV files in different, forms. So I can there's sometimes I can kind of detect when it looks artificial in nature, versus actually natural. And, so, here's just right off the top of my head, I'm thinking submarines. I love submarines. And there's these guys that they'll monitor what's going on in the ocean. And so they can pick up the sounds that are out in the ocean and say, okay, that's a whale, that's a trawler, or, this is a shrimping boat, or, so it is possible for the person who's been at it for a while to actually pick up, whether or not it might be fake or not. But my argument is that it's a little bit harder with audio than it is with Photoshop.
Yeah, I would think so. And it's about to get harder.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. But, they haven't decided a release date on that.
I know. I'm scared of that.
What Surlana and I are talking about...
If you make an enemy...
Yeah, what Surlana and I are talking about is recently Adobe premiered a thing that they're working on called
Voco?
Voco, yes. And what this program allows you to do is take 30 minutes of audio of, like, let's say I was talking to you and gave a speech on 30 minutes of audio. You could take that audio, put it into Voco, and then type out anything. And it would be able to the speech would actually sound like me, and you could fake a program.
Make you say anything I want.
Yes, like I would like a big juicy donut right now.
That's like the most benign thing you could do.
I'm sure you could think of some worse things, but anyway. So yeah, that's my take on audio when it comes to that.
Okay, well, something that's harder to fake that is in this same category is the loud, earth-shaking booms people are hearing that seem to be coming from underground.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and this is getting reported everywhere where there's ground, basically.
Right.
My theory is, what if it is those big machines that are doing the underground tunneling for secret bases and whatnot?
Right. That's one thing I've thought of.
But they're called unexplained booms, and I've heard her talk about where I can't remember. It was somewhere up north, like Ohio or something maybe, where they this town had this going on, and they got the mayor involved. The mayor was a woman, and she's like, "Well, we've looked into this, and it's not an earthquake. We've talked to the Geological Society." None of the military is doing anything, and it's not that, and it's not, and they've dismissed all these official things that it could be. And she's like, "Oh, we're going to get to the bottom of it." And then when Linda came back to talk to the mayor again, she's like, "Oh, it was seismic activity." So she's like somebody got to the mayor, and between, this press conference and talking to Linda. And,
right.
But that's kind of suspect to me. I mean, if it's not quake related, what the heck is it?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because I have come across some possible explanations for the sounds that we're coming across. One, we kind of already mentioned mechanical devices, like the earth mover thing that you were talking about or a little bit earlier here. Like I said, certain metals will vibrate at a certain frequency when they're rubbing against something, friction-wise. So that you have mechanical devices. Here's one that's, kind of interesting.
But shakes the ground?
Well, hold on. If you're going to talk about shake the ground, we're talking about underground drilling devices.
Right. That's what I think.
And who's to say that, when I know I'm kind of jumping ahead on here. What about the underground tunnels that Anthony Sanchez talks about in his book, Unknown Highway?
I haven't read it,
yeah,
so I don't know.
But he talks about the whole southwest region being tunneled. So could you imagine a high speed?
Well, I'd heard that before, yeah.
So something high speed underground is going to make that effect.
While they're building it or while it's in operation?
Could be building while in operation. I mean, take your pick. I mean,
but like a boom that is shaking houses?
Okay, well, let's take it on that same subject matter. Supposedly these tunnels are, pretty fast. Some may say that...
Sonic boom, you mean?
There you go. You knew exactly where I was going. Like. Well, I know what it sounds like in Street Fighter, but... Hadouken! So, but, so those are your possible explanations. Yeah, I love throwing
wasn't expecting that.
Some game humor
Hadouken.
there. So mechanical devices, in fact, two hums have been linked to mechanical sources. The West Seattle hum was traced to a vacuum pump by a...
hums were another one. I forgot about that. Yeah.
By an offload cargo from ships. So, I mean, there you go. So you had cargo getting unloaded off of a ship that was created by a vacuum pump. And so people were hearing that, so that's an example of that. There was another instance where, let's see here, kind of looking, the Chrysler casting plant was emitting the second 10 hertz tone from its air compressor intake at the Haynes International plant. So, I mean,
well, those are noises like hums. So that got explained, but not
at
things
first,
that shake the ground.
It's important. Yeah, I've got a list here. And it's important to emphasize that these were mysteries of unknowns, and people thought they were mysterious, but yet had a plausible explanation for them. Another thing is that I'm surprised that hasn't been brought up before is tinnitus. Hearing hums and
tinnitus,
tinnitus.
He likes to make up his own
tinnitus. Yes, thank you very much. So we all know
hundreds of people having it at the same time.
That is a possible explanation. I'm not saying that is the all-in explanation. That that these are some of the, and I'm not going to say that this is like the swamp gas of ufology kind of thing. These are just things that could actually happen. And like for example, fish of all things. There were one of the many possibilities that causes there was this West Seattle hum considered was that it was related to the midshipman fish, also known as lodefish, was causing sounds like this. So
fish were causing what?
A hum, if you will.
So the fish have got an a cappella gig? I mean...
Well, if you have quite a lot of fish, I'm sure
I thought you were going to say fish farts for some reason. I don't know.
Well, if our audience now, Space Cadets, if you know that fish fart, let us know. Surlana's just dying to know right now.
There's a shrimp that does... I want to say there's a shrimp that does that has...
And I'm sure when the shrimp is out of shape, then it does that.
Nobody would get that reference. Maybe my sister gets that reference.
Mystery Science Theater. Throwing you all a bone out there if you can figure that one out. So what we're looking at is we're looking at mechanical, we're looking at the human biological, and we're looking at the environment like animals and that possibly cause that. That cities have, as the wind blows through skyscrapers, causes a unique sound. I know that when I worked downtown in Houston, when they had parades and stuff, the sounds down there, they would, blast a cannon or something like that. Or even when they had lightning, oh my goodness, it sounded like a cannon. So, just possible different things. Am I saying that the sounds that Linda is describing can be dismissed as simple as these explanations? No, I'm not saying that. I'm leaving room for a possibility of the unknown because we don't know all the answers in this situation. And what say you, Surlana?
I'm typing a witty rejoinder.
Oh, okay.
And I agree with you. Those are some very valid possibilities. I don't know if they've been explored or she's had those mentioned to her. The only ones I really don't know about are the booms, because if they're shaking buildings and there's no seismic activity, I don't know. That one bugs me.
Well, it is a strange universe out there, Surlana. So, but speaking of the universe and space, which kind of leads us to our next topic here with Linda, and that is
this
Neil Armstrong.
One I've heard. Yeah, I've heard more recently, like this year. I don't know when she first mentioned this, and I don't have a lot to tell you about it, but it's thought-provoking, and I'm thinking you will have something to say about it. It did not occur to me that Neil Armstrong had been silent. I didn't realize that because I wasn't following him, but I was listening to Linda talk to Dr. J on his show.
Yes.
And Dr. J pointed out, he goes, I thought he'd been dead for years before he actually passed away because the guy had been so silent.
Yeah,
meaning Armstrong.
The only crazy astronaut we hear from is Buzz. Or is it Buzz? Buzz Aldrin?
Yeah.
I had to think about it for a second. But, he's out there. But as far as Neil, it's just an interesting subject matter.
Well, and that just caught my attention because, she was talking to Dr. J, and she had wanted to get Armstrong on a show, on sightings. She was going to produce a segment on sightings about astronauts who have seen things,
right?
That are not explainable. So, when she tried to contact him, now she never mentioned this guy's name, but supposedly Neil Armstrong's best friend from childhood all the way through school. They went through pilot training together. She didn't mention this guy's name, but his best friend, told Linda, he's never going to talk to you. And let me tell you why. So this guy told Linda that he had gone to visit Neil at Neil's house. And one thing that struck him right away when he goes to visit him is that Armstrong doesn't have anything that represents his time with NASA or that he was a pilot. Nothing. No memorabilia, no photos, no accolades, no newspaper clippings, nothing on the wall. And he thought that was odd, so he asked him, why don't you have, he said, when they came back, there was like a ticker tape parade, and then that was it. I guess he never said another word.
Which, going back to the house thing, I find that very interesting in the sense that, we have tons of crap just everywhere celebrating the things that we've done. And, we've got a nerd wall. Yeah, like our nerd wall in the living room.
Oh, that's things we like, not what we've done.
But no, it's still a celebration of the things that we enjoy. And I would imagine if I got a chance to go to the moon, and
you would never let anyone forget it.
Exactly.
You would be like, what's his face on
Howard.
You'd be like Howard.
Howard
on Big Bang Theory.
Exactly. I mean, because
did I mention I was an astronaut?
Yeah, because how are you going to compete against Sheldon always bad mouthing you because you're an engineer? But if I had gone to the moon, I would be like, hey, give it up, people! I've been to the moon. I'm the moon man, baby. That kind of thing, and I would eat that stuff up and give chances to inspire kids to get into the space thing. And
that's normal. Don't you think that's normal to want to celebrate yourself? Right. If you accomplish something like, hey, I'm the first human being on the frickin' moon.
That we know of.
Put it everywhere.
But, yeah, so it's like... that gives you the question, well, if he wasn't so in, the after story, after the moon. Well, hold on. And so why, why even train to go to the moon if you're not going to come back and celebrate like, hey, we went to the moon kind of thing. And so that's my thing is that, what happened there, Surlana? What?
Well... this man told Linda, he goes, I asked Neil about it. What's the deal? Why? There's nothing in your house that shows your accomplishments, your achievements. And he says, Neil got real quiet and he looked down at the floor and he said, there were 3 of them parked in the crater and they told us to move the limb so we won't see it. So apparently, I've never actually sat down and watched the moon landing. Mm-hmm. I've only seen the big highlights.
Right.
But there's a point in the moon landing where the whole limb seems to jerk, and that's them turning away from this crater, so you don't see them.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't he mention he came across as not proud or...
he was... What I'm getting from that is that he was so destroyed that I guess, 1, he saw evidence of non-human beings, and 2, that he had to keep quiet about it. That's what I'm inferring from that.
Which, here, this is what kind of adds to the mystery here. Other than me choking already. Let me clear my throat.
You need a drink. Let's all take a drink. Everybody take a drink.
Oh, I needed that. That's delicious water, courtesy of our mini fridge in here. So what I was going to get at is, here is a guy who is in the military, respects, I guess, his country. And I guess what I'm getting at is there's a sense of loyalty and honor in this man. And so, it's plausible based on, what we're picking up from, the interviews with Linda and what she covered is that we're dealing with a man who knows a secret, but he ends up having to lie to the people.
Yeah.
And so he comes across as a man who, if I can't talk about it, he's disillusioned about something. So what is the best way to deal with this is just to fade away and
go out of the, and that way he doesn't have to lie about anything. He just doesn't talk. Mm-hmm. Is that lying by omission?
Well, I mean, one might say that, but if the best way to not tell the truth is...
Don't say anything.
Don't say anything. And
he did say these were 3 silver discs, by the way, in the crater that he saw.
So...
But now, this is second or third hand. Mm-hmm. So, we don't know... Can we trust the best friend of Neil Armstrong to be telling us the truth? Well, I don't know.
I mean, what is his motivation?
You have
to
to
ask that question.
I don't know, because she never mentioned his name.
I mean, what would he get out of it? So if he doesn't get mentioned or his name doesn't come out, mm-hmm. you have
it's not like he gets anything.
I would give a little credence to the truth that's coming from him
it wouldn't
to
be
Linda.
hard to find out, I'm sure. But isn't that intriguing? I wouldn't know how you'd go about digging into that, like why he was completely quiet, because that's the only thing that tips you off. Like, why would you be the first person on the moon and then never talk about it the rest of your life?
Yeah, like I said, with me, it's the ego kind of thing. I would just, hey, I went to the moon kind of thing. And
please, you finished off 2 bags of Taco Bell, you'd be talking about that. It's an interesting case in the sense that I guess we'll never know. In a sense, coming from the man himself, and which is kind of interesting because then you go to Buzz, who that man is just all over the place. And I know this is not Linda related, but but it is astronaut related about him going down to Antarctica. Oh, that was fake, though.
What? No. Well,
that tweet was fake.
The tweet part, yes, but you can't deny that he went down there. Of all people, listen to me. Why would the Secretary of State go down to Antarctica? That doesn't make sense to me.
What's down there?
What is down there?
That's of interest.
And although we've read and reviewed videos about Admiral Byrd and seeing UFOs down there in Antarctica, and supposedly the Nazis building a base down there, and it's an interesting subject matter.
But that is tied to stuff we're going to talk about tonight,
right.
The Nazi stuff.
Yeah, so I digress.
So it's relevant.
Yeah, so interesting stuff, Surlana. So why don't we cruise into our next break?
We'll talk about the next big one.
The next big one. Oh, yeah, 2. Oh, boy, I can't wait to get into those. Those are going to be
these are probably going to take up most of the show.
Yeah, so you're listening to Spaceboy Universe with Spaceboy and Surlana, so don't go anywhere. we're back.
That was a classic song.
Spaceboy song?
That was a Firefly. It's a classic Spaceboy music track.
Yeah, it is. It's
Shout
from
out for
the Get Your Groove On album, and a lot of interesting songs on that. For a while, it was very popular on Pandora until I took all my music off of Pandora.
Who listens to Pandora?
Yeah, so...
Anyway.
But,
Won't get into that.
Yeah, it's a whole another...
That seems dated to me.
It gets me all grouchy just thinking about
I did try to expand Spaceboy's musical and cultural horizon recently by... we were on the way to somewhere in the car making him listen to... every song I could find on Spotify that had the word booty in it. He was a crusty old curmudgeon about it.
I was not. No, I found it interesting that you were like, are you about to twerk on this or what's going on?
Yeah, there was twerking involved and
So anyway, we're back, and so now we're heading into topic 3.
Topic 3. Never heard of this before until I heard Linda speak about it. I don't know if she's the one that broke it or she just got so involved with it she became like the voice for it. Basically, this is the UK's Roswell incident, and we're talking about the incident at the RAF Bentwaters installation, also the Rendlesham Forest incident. This is basically their Roswell, but it happened in 1980, December of 1980, and I think a lot of people listening know about it, but for this program, I really got deeper into it by listening to her talk about it, and I learned some things. It's more clear to me what happened that night. It happened from December 26, 1980 to December 28th. So it was like, this happened on the 26th, this happened on the 27th, and this happened on the 28th. So, but it is a bunch. It is lights, beams of light, actual craft, missing time, and somebody actually physically touches a craft. So this is, I don't know what you'd call this, more significant or on the same level as Roswell?
Well, although an interesting case, the difference between this and Roswell, we have alien bodies involved in Roswell. We didn't have...
Yeah, but we don't have the true evidence. That's whereas we've got over 30 witnesses here.
True. And I think in this case, we also have the, the binary, that was the binary code downloaded.
Yeah, that's part of this stuff.
Yes. So, do you want to continue?
Yeah. What I thought was funny is she talked about how this is a Royal Air Force base in the Suffolk County, which is northeast of London. This is in England, but it's a British Air Force base. But our military was operating out of it. You're getting to me now. This Air Force was on the eastern edge of something called the Rendlesham Forest. And this is what interests me. They actually planted more trees and added to this to keep it kind of covered up from aerial. Mm-hmm. So you can't fly over it and see so much,
Right.
So that's kind of interesting to me. So I guess they very carefully planned out where to put this base when they were building it. So they leased this base to the U.S. Air Force, and it was a joint complex with UK-US. Now, in 1992, we left that complex, and I think it eventually got shut down after 92.
Right.
But this incident we're talking about, it took place, I guess, again, December 26th through 28th, 1980. Mm-hmm. And, lights, craft, beam. Now, I think the significance of this base is the fact, and oh my God, how did we get away with this? At the time, 1980, we had nuclear weapons stored there. Mm-hmm. How in the world how did we convince the UK to let us do that?
Well, I guess it's just part of a protection of...
I mean, 80's the Cold War revved up, right?
You're dealing with the Cold War at the time, and you're dealing with the...
And she says that's what the purpose of the base was, is to keep an eye on, Russia and, other things going on. This is on the east side of the UK, facing the North Sea. So I guess that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And there is a lighthouse on the coast. Now, that comes into play because the official explanations, like, for what they're saying, you just saw the lighthouse. And what's significant about that is all the reports of these lights they were seeing had nothing to do or anywhere near being able to see the lighthouse.
Well, one proposed theory, if going on that subject matter of the lighthouse, is that the incident is a hoax. The BBC reported that a former U.S. security policeman, Kevin Condi, claimed responsibility for creating strange lights in the forest by driving around in a police vehicle whose lights he had modified. However, there is no evidence that this prank took place the nights in question. So,
that's quite a heck of a prank to get this many military involved. Now, another thing they said, they told one woman, you saw Mars. Yeah, Mars came down from the sky, landed in the trees, and then scared the heck out of them,
Another explanation that they say, going on the skeptic analysis, who have looked into this, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I'm just reporting it as I see it. Other explanations for the incidents have included a downloaded Soviet spy satellite, but no evidence was ever produced to support that.
You mean a downed one?
Yeah, a downed, satellite.
Came down, or they shot it down or something?
No, it fell down in this Rendlesham forest area.
Well, I think I'm about to I'm about to break that one open because of satellites don't do what these things are doing.
Right. So we'll go ahead and debunk that part.
Well, I'm getting to it.
Okay, good.
It's more chronological, sorry.
No, that's fine. Just all in the mix.
Now, what I found out interesting is, sure, all these incidents happen, 26th through the 28th, but prior to this, people were seeing things in and around this base, civilians, and reporting strange lights in the sky before this happened. So it's not like, boom, this happened out of nowhere. I didn't realize that. That's what I didn't know. Linda pointed that out. Now, they reported them, but I don't think it got anywhere after the report. And on the base, Linda was told, a guy who had just been newly transferred to the base was told by his colleagues there, if you see something strange in the sky, keep it to yourself. Don't make trouble for yourself. Mm-hmm. Don't bother reporting it.
And that has been pretty much the status quo, for many years, and especially leading up to that point. If reporting UFOs are kind of like, if you're going to report that, people are going to think you're crazy, and we'll drum you out of the military, kind of thing.
But it sounds like the personnel at that base were already familiar with stuff going on before this incident even happened. So maybe they were actually seeing things before, and they just kept quiet about it because, for whatever reason, they were told, they were getting, I don't know what was happening to them, but it was, word got around like, just don't say anything. So on the 26th, 1980, December, Airman Law Enforcement Officer Tech Sergeant John Burroughs was rumored to maybe have been taken up by this craft because he's got some missing time and missing memories that were blocked for 30 years. Some of it's still blocked. Now, he did meet with a hypnotherapist in 1988, and Linda showed video of the session. And I watched that, and while he's under supposedly hypnosis, he sounds frantic when he's recounting what happened. Mm-hmm. And he remembers a lot of details while he's, quote unquote, under. So he had approached these weird lights that they saw. They saw these weird lights with Peniston. And when he first saw them, he said it was kind of hard to determine if it was a light or an object, because it kept changing size, shape, colors, moving around. And then all of a sudden he said the light just shrank, just almost shrank to nothing. And he said it was calling to them, and it says, it wants us, it wants us. Mm-hmm. And he kept marveling over the fact, goes, how can it move through the woods like that? There's no trees being knocked down. It's just, so it kind of sounded like maybe it was phasing through matter. I don't know, because he kept going over like that. So it must be, he was shocked by the fact that, the trees weren't coming down.
Right.
Now, when this first happened, and they ran out there to go investigate, to try to go chase it down, they didn't have their guns. And because they kept asking, where's your sidearm? And I was thinking, well, maybe they felt threatened. But the thing is, they left their weapons behind because that was an agreement they had with the British. I guess not to carry it around the base. I don't know. But Burroughs said he felt it pulling him toward it. And when it finally took off with this first incident, they started getting back to the base, and they didn't remember crossing a creek. They were in front of this creek, and it's like, did we cross this creek while we were chasing this thing? And then they were disoriented, and while they were engaged in going to find it and then chasing it, their radio went down, and they were baffled by that because they had these towers up to carry the signal, to repeat the radio signal so they wouldn't lose radio signal. They didn't understand how they lost radio contact. And when they got back to base, the base said, we lost contact with you for 40 minutes or more. So they were out there for a while, either chasing this thing or looking at this light. So his team was told back at the base they saw lights and beams of lights coming down in that area where John's team was, and that's where when they lost the radio contact. So the next night, they go back to look for physical evidence, and they found 3 evenly spaced impressions in the ground, like in a tripod kind of configuration, right where they saw the light last, and they did see fresh down tree limbs in that area. Now, this is kind of where it gets interesting. The next night, which I guess is the 26th, or it might be the 28th. No, I mean the 27th. A female officer, Bonnie Tamplin, is at the East Gate on duty when a blue light enters her vehicle, and it freaked her out so badly she was screaming and crying when she called in on the radio, and she had to be relieved of duty. Mm. So they go the next night to find out about this, and so Burroughs is not even on duty, but he says he wants to go out there. So he goes out there with Charles Halt and tries to investigate. So now we're on the 28th, and there are 30 men in the force with equipment and vehicles, and they're looking around. John wanted to go to the East Gate where another officer, Bowen, saw another light. And what is strange about this is that Colonel Halt was weirdly calm about all this. And he wasn't surprised to see Burroughs back out there. And he and another guy last name Bastenza, went to go find something, and that's when they saw the craft.
Right.
Now, Burroughs says, I think the craft had been out there for hours. So Halt and John Burroughs approached the thing. Halt said they wanted them to come to it, whoever they were. And there's the implication that Halt knows maybe more than he's telling. Mm-hmm. And So Halt says, okay, John, let's go approach it. No, wait. He would have them go towards it in stages. Like, okay, let's wait here for a minute. Okay, let's approach. So they're approaching the craft, and I think John says it was being recorded somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Halt and John says that these lights are speaking to them, saying, come to me, come to me. Now, when Lori Bowen saw these lights, she said it was handfuls of colored fire, spinning and turning and changing color, disappearing into the darkness of the trees. She got scared and reported it. And she says, somebody come down here to the East Gate. I don't want to be by myself. She was told later either she saw the lighthouse or Mars. Because, you know, Mars changes color all the time and comes down from the trees. Now, Peniston described the craft a little bit more. He said it was triangular, smooth like glass, but black, glossy, 9 feet by 6.5 feet tall. And he says these globs of color would dart across the surface of it and change shape and color. And he says it was like onyx, like the stone onyx.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew right away it had to be beyond our human capability to create something like this. And Peniston said to John Burroughs, like, how in the heck are we going to explain this? You know, like on a report or whoever.
Right.
John says, yeah, we're looking at a UFO. Now, they felt the glass and there were symbols on it. But he said if you run your hands over the symbols, it was kind of feel like maybe they were scratched out by sandpaper. It felt a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And then at one point it turned completely white. And so they thought, well, maybe that means back off. So they backed off, and this thing went up to the top of the trees and then just took off like they couldn't believe. But they got this instinctual feeling they knew it was going to come back at some point. When Halt saw this object, he said a beam of light came down. It was a focus like a laser beam, straight down, 20 inches in diameter, 10 feet away from him. He didn't know if that was a warning or a communication, but as soon as it appeared, it just gone. And he also said to report this would be the kiss of death for his career.
Right.
And there's another guy there called Rick Bobo, that's his name,
mm-hmm.
who also was in the watchtower. And he saw these lights come down, and he said there's talk about this incident, like, oh, well, these lights were messing with the weapons storage area where the nukes are. And he says, he said he was in that tower the whole time. He says there was nothing anywhere near the WSA. So he says that's not true. He says maybe the guys out in the forest perceived these lights as being near the WSA, but they weren't from his perspective. So he goes, unless our memories have been tampered with, ha ha ha, he said. But what's interesting about that is all these guys were told, don't talk about this, don't talk about this. You saw Mars, you saw this, you saw that. But this guy, Rick Bobo, says no one ever told him to keep his mouth shut. So he didn't really bother. He said, I didn't really have anybody to tell, but he goes, I was never officially told to keep my mouth shut. So I guess he slipped through the cracks,
mm-hmm.
But John Burroughs is still kind of haunted by this and still doesn't fully remember what happened to him. Like I said, he's got that missing time. So, but that's the first time I'd ever heard about the Rendlesham Forest incident.
And it is quite an interesting story. And once again...
What are your thoughts on that?
I kind of bring it back to the comparison to Roswell.
Yeah.
And I don't think
There's not a lot of witnesses that come forward with that, is there? With Roswell?
Well, there were witnesses, but, over time...
They were threatened.
Oh, yeah.
Terribly.
Yes. I think that the Roswell incident is more... I know this is going to sound terrible. The Roswell incident is more interesting than the Bentwaters.
Why is that? More secrecy? More mystery?
More mystery, I think, for me, so I guess I fall on the side of the more mystery part of Roswell because it happened so long ago. and compared
47, yeah.
47, and I guess.
And we'll get into that a teensy bit more too.
Right, exactly. So that's my thoughts on it. Is that
if there's time,
it's a good story. Do I rank it up there on my top 10? You know.
Oh yeah.
It's
really.
You know, maybe top 20. But you know, I think that this particular story has gotten a lot of hype, more hype than maybe it should have. And I know that sounds terrible, doesn't it?
What are your thoughts? I didn't expect that from you.
Yeah, I've heard.
This is your topic, man. You know.
Well, you know, there are other stories that I've heard over the years that you know, I think that are more sensationalized, more dramatic, more intriguing, more full of mystery. And then this particular one, other than the download of the information.
Yeah, they tried to. Which one that got the download of information was John? He got it in a series of ones and zeros, and they tried to take those ones and zeros and put them in every combination you could think of, and they thought they might be longitude, latitude coordinates.
Right, and
they've gone through all those permutations.
Those particular longitude and latitude coordinates are located in the Atlantic Ocean, and in a spot.
Well, Linda points out that they found them all over. There's nothing conclusive because you can put them through permutations and get longitude and latitudes for anywhere, just about. So it's nothing logical that makes sense. So yeah, they did deny him his own medical records, John Burroughs, the military. He couldn't get them. Which in that part, as Dan James points out,
is interesting. I find that interesting. Usually, why are they holding back the medical records? Just go ahead and give it, you know, unless there's something else, you know, because
they could alter them and then give it to him.
It's not let's not put our government past infecting our military personnel with some kind of, you know, disease or something like that. I mean, there was the big thing about the troops when they were going to Iraq to fight for the first time getting poisoned by our own military. You can even go back further than that through history where the military has affected Army personnel to test to see what the effects are on. I mean, heck, they had the military out there when they blew up the bomb in the desert. I mean, how crazy is that stuff, right? So I'm not putting it past the fact that the military could have done something to these guys at I'm getting choked up.
Bentwaters.
Thank you very much.
Just say Bentwaters.
Bentwaters. I'm going to do for another water here very shortly. So
plowing through this water like nobody's business.
But yeah, I don't know why I'm all choked up. So yeah, that's my final thoughts on it. Is that although an interesting story, I think that when there's some more hardcore information out there, my attitude might change on the subject matter. But for right now, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, I can't believe that from you. I think when I first heard about it, because it was the first time I was hearing about it, I was like, what? I didn't know this thing even existed till maybe 6 years ago, about the time when she talked about it in just about 2010. Maybe that's when I heard about it.
Wow, I can't believe that 6-7 years ago was only 2010. It seems like it doesn't seem like the story's been out there that long, but I guess it has.
I have not tracked the history of the story. Has it been known about since 1980, or how long has it been out there? I wonder if anybody knows that.
I think it's only fairly recently in history that this particular case has come to light. And, you know, and I guess that's why everybody's like calling it the modern Roswell, is because, you know, here's something that's been kept under wraps for so long, since the early 80s, and now it's finally come out. So I guess they're going for the, you know, surprise factor like Roswell. Is, hey, did you know that we shot down, or a lightning bolt took down a UFO and we discovered bodies, kind of thing? You know, the fact that the not binary code. It is, wasn't it? Yeah, binary code.
Yeah, you're right.
Was part of the story. That intrigued me. The fact that, the medical records, not being able to get his medical records, which he clearly should get, is being withheld from him. I think they pursued a congressman or something to get that release to him as well. And so that is fascinating.
But I don't know how this came to be, but John Burroughs now co-hosts that show with her on KGRA or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he co-interviewed the person we're going to talk about next. And once again, you and I will get into an argument about time travel.
So I guess now is the time to take our next break, and that'll give me a chance to cool my throat down with a little extra water here. So you're listening to Spaceboy Universe, so don't go anywhere.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Surlana.
All right, there. That's a little gamma burst for you from Spaceboy, and let's see, what album would that be? I believe that is Rebirth.
Yeah, I was about to say, I've seen the baby.
Yeah, that's a good album cover, by the way.
Thank you.
Even though it's supposed to be a picture of me as a baby. It's a baby with a pair of glasses, and if you can't figure out that it's me, then,
we can't help you.
Can't help you. Anyway, so we're moving on. We're doing great here, Surlana, with getting this information out. In fact, now we're up to topic 4.
Yes, this one's probably going to get me. This one's going to get me worked up. This is a topic that we're talking maybe last 3 or 4 months that I've heard her talk about, and this is she and John Burroughs co-interviewed this supposedly. Another John Teeter comes forward, or as I like to call him, John Teeter 2 Electric Boogaloo. So, this guy who says he's the real John Teeter, but he calls himself 2 to differentiate from the disinformation agent, which is the original guy who claims to be John Teeter. Okay. Yeah, that's why I like this story. There's so much drama.
Well, the whole history of John Teeter in general is interesting. It's fascinating.
If you don't know, I guess we should explain who John Teeter's supposed to be. Do you want to do that? Because I do a lot of talking.
Oh, well, I appreciate you tossing me a bone every once in a while. But apparently John Teeter is supposedly a time traveler from the future. And so...
Echo.
Yeah, I should have... I do, but I didn't set it up. Could have did a future note to self. So, yeah, so John Teeter is the supposedly is the name that was used on several bulletin boards during, I guess, during 2000 to about 2001 by a poster that was claiming to be a military time traveler from the year 2036. In these posts, Teeter made numerous predictions about the future events, some vague, some quite specific, starting with the events of 2004. He described a drastic change future in which the United States had broken up into 5 smaller regions. Now, I need to get into the topic of... I'm sorry, I'm watching Surlana try to drink a bottle of water. It's
completely frozen.
Frozen over.
Sorry.
I
got nothing.
So basically, back to what I was saying is that he predicted the United States would be broken up into 5 smaller regions, which I don't find it too hard to believe in that sense. That because of the state of the nation, because we're so divided.
Oh, yeah, I think that's where we're headed now.
But yeah, he made many predictions. Even Art Bell was involved in this situation.
Oh, yeah. It was pretty big at one time, wasn't it?
It was at the turn of, 2000. I guess you're waving at me as far as we have a phone call.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I did tell people the phone lines were open all night.
Well, we'll go ahead and take this phone call.
Hey, caller, are you there?
I sure am.
Hello, Bev. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How you guys doing?
We are peachy.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm finer than frog hair.
Okay, I heard that one.
So what's on your mind?
This woman I worked with used to say that all the time.
So what's on your mind, Bev?
Oh, man. I'll tell you, man, I've been learning a lot about Linda tonight.
Oh, good.
I never knew that she did all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. There's even more that, we probably have to have 4 more shows on her.
Oh, yeah. If not 5 or 6.
The woman is very prolific.
And you can tell, I mean, I've never met her, but just by the, interviews I've heard with her, on the radios and that, with Jimmy, you can just tell that she's a very caring person.
I forgot that we met her, but it was just very briefly in passing.
Well, let me tell my story about that.
No,
I like telling my Linda story.
There's nothing really to it.
Well, Bev, you want me to tell the story, right?
But he's told it many times.
Oh, sure.
So anyway, we went to the contact in the desert 2 years. The first year, Surlana, I guess, suffered from heat stroke and didn't stay out there.
So I'm not going back.
So, I got to meet Linda at the end of the night during that broadcast, and it was cool because I've always wanted to meet her. And, by the way, she is a very short lady. So, the second year,
Her and I would get along good then, because I'm only 5'1".
She's about that tall. She's not very tall. So, the second year, I brought the old spacesuit out, and because, just promoting Spaceboy, as I usually do. And as I made my way across the crowded area, there was Linda and talking to this couple. And, of course, you have an astronaut walk up to you. It's a little distracting. So I raised the visor up. I said, "Hey, Linda, I met you last year. I know you probably don't remember me because I wasn't wearing my suit or anything."
Yeah, I approach you like everything's normal. I'm just in a suit. I'm going to raise this up and talk to you like a human being.
And what did I do? I did something nice. I said, "I want to introduce you to my wife, and here is Surlana." And so I introduced Linda.
I didn't care if you did or not.
Yeah, but still, you found her interesting, and I wanted to make an impression that would last forever. And there's a picture out there if you go through it, and the Twitter for Spaceboy Universe, where Linda and I, in that exact moment, I'm looking at her and she's looking at me like I'm some kind of nut from outer space.
Surely you're not the craziest person she's ever encountered.
No, but so that's my Linda story. I love telling it. So thank you for listening.
Well, and you know about that deal with Neil Armstrong.
Yeah.
See, here in Ohio, where we're from, they always said that he just didn't like the publicity of it all.
Well,
so who knows, you know.
It is intriguing. I guess there's all sorts. I mean, like I was talking to Surlana here. You know, I would be like, hey, you know, did you know I landed on the moon? I'm the first guy that landed on the moon.
That would be your opening line on the first date, wouldn't it?
Pretty much. Hey, and then it would be, hey, do you know I can play guitar? And then,
and write my own music.
Exactly. So, I mean, I would have a whole, little resume, pickup lines that only Spaceboy could do kind of thing.
You should write a blog.
And nobody really knows how, you know, on the subject of Burroughs, nobody really knows how much he was paid, do they?
For what?
For their silence, or?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Well, I think it was more like either be quiet or we'll give you a purple nurple, and, you know, they kept their mouth shut.
Or probably more than that.
I'm sure there's a few.
Because there's ways, I'm sure there's ways that they could, you know, kill someone and make it look like an accident.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, that's just a part of the government. You know, I'm sure there's been other cases. You know, when you go back to the Roswell incident, you have these people going to the many people out there. You will keep your mouth shut, and if we find out that you're saying anything, we're coming back for you. I mean, that during that time, you know.
They'll find you.
Yeah, you know, and people were a lot more patriotic then. You know, they found it their civic duty to keep their mouth shut. But then, you know, there were others that were like, you know, I'm not going to say anything because I surely don't want to be killed by this guy. You know, the G-men or, you know, whoever was coming after him at that time.
And really, I don't think there's anywhere in this world you can hide from them because they will find you.
Indeed.
You could even change your appearance, your name. They will still find you.
Mm-hmm. I believe that too.
I believe that too.
So, and it's pretty wild.
Indeed.
I mean, it's scary. I mean, how many people, you know, want to say something, but they're afraid because they've been threatened by them.
Or even the fact that they hear stories. People might have be an experiencer, and they don't come forward because they've heard all these different stories of people being accosted or threatened or, for whatever matter.
Mm-hmm. And, what kind of life can you have, hiding all the time?
No.
It wouldn't be worth it to me.
No bueno. No good.
It wouldn't be worth it to me looking over my shoulders all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd just keep my mouth shut.
Well, there you go.
But that's hard for me to do.
Oh.
Ask Bob. He'll tell you.
I was getting ready to say, is Bob going to collaborate on that one?
Oh. If he was on the extension, he would say, he's right.
Well, Bev, we appreciate you calling in.
Oh, well, hey. I try not to miss a night of calling in.
Oh, well, did you call in last week? I'm trying to remember if she did or not.
Last week is a blur.
It is a blur. These things, after over a year and a half of doing this.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So, but all right.
Oh, well, no, I didn't.
I was going to say.
I was sick. I was sick last week. I had a real bad sore throat.
I knew our night was kind of off, but
that's why I couldn't remember anything.
But
come on, guys, you're making me blush.
Oh, Bev, hugs. We love you, dear.
Well, I love you guys so much too.
All right. Well, we expect you to report in next week.
Oh, well, hey, if Lord willing and the creek don't rise.
Okay.
All right, Bev. Have a good evening.
Love you guys.
Bye-bye.
Sorry, it struck me as funny.
It is. It's always a treat to hear from Bev, and so yeah, and that's reminded me last week. I forgot to tell you. You don't remember? You surely remember Sunday.
Yeah. God, how can we forget all that?
Yeah, I mean, we got to meet Daryl Sims in person here in Houston. So that was quite the treat. And, I got my picture with him, as always. And he really digs our show. And I think you were very surprised on that.
Yeah, I don't want to go into that because you'll get mad at me. So.
Okay, well, we'll go on. So basically, you have this guy, Teeter, has put all these posts out there, and
he's. I'm not aware of the saga of Teeter, that Teeter, but before this guy, were there others claiming to be? No, I'm Spartacus.
Well, it was led to believe that there were two Teeters hanging out or whatever. You had the Teeter 1, and basically he had to have some kind of calculation, so he left this. I think there's a website out there that has this calculation that helps the other Teeter 2 get back to where he needs to get to.
But that's the same guy.
Well, now that I've...
They're not two different people.
I think there's two different people because what we're dealing here is not necessarily time travel per se. We're dealing with multiverse.
Oh, jeez.
I know you hate when I start going into the multiverse.
I can't.
Wrap your mind around it?
Yeah, it's too much. It's too much.
So that's where we're at. We have a guy who went back in time to retrieve because in the future something was going on with computers, right? Mm-hmm. So they needed to go back to a specific time to retrieve an IBM 5100.
Marty, we gotta go back.
Marty, the Libyans, they found me. Anyway, so he travels back to retrieve this IBM 5100 computer, which is said to be needed to debug various legacy computer programs in the year 2036.
This is still Teeter Prime, though. First one, right?
Yeah, so, and somehow there's a connection that a family member worked on this or whatever, and they apparently...
I don't get too deep into this guy.
And it was later collaborated that indeed there was a special program on this IBM to help debug, and nobody at IBM had told anybody. So that makes it interesting, like, okay, where did he find this information out,
But that's just to establish who Teeter is.
Right. So
that first Teeter.
Yeah, that prime.
Now this guy comes out and says, "No, I'm the real Teeter." That guy you were talking about is the disinformation officer to obfuscate what is really going on, put out there by and on purpose. Which is an odd. Why do it on an obscure forum? You know. Anyway. Okay, so in September of this last year, this guy wrote Disclosure, The Chronicles of John Teeter II. Mm-hmm. Now, the first thing that throws me off in this interview with Linda, John, and
Teeter
II, because he's also John.
T2.
Is the fact that Linda pronounces it Titor.
Right.
And I glom onto that and I can't get out. Every time she says Titor. I'm like, why are you saying it that way? She also says Dick Cheney. She doesn't say Cheney. She says it some other way. And I'm like, why? Anyway, I won't get into that. Okay. So, again, Teeter 2 claims Teeter 1 is a counterintelligence imposter.
Right.
The one that appeared on the 2000 to 2001 Art Bell programs. His job was to discredit the Air Force Teeter, this guy. Now, this guy, Teeter, whatever, T2 Electric Boogaloo, says that he was a part of a time travel division, which was based at Nellis Air Force Base in 1978. And they were doing practice runs of experimental craft to the moon and to Mars. And the craft was called a TR-3B. Mm-hmm. Get this. These are triangular-shaped aircraft with large round lights at each vertex. Does that sound familiar?
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a lot of the UFO sightings that have been done recently.
So that caught my eye right there. So some other thing that I had heard her say, or was it Daryl Sims that said, whenever there's a legit UFO sighting of non-human origin, they'll follow it by another one to mimic it.
Right.
I don't know if it's to cover it up or what, or they'll fake an incident just to see how the public reacts and how many people saw it and how many people report it and how they handle it.
Right. So,
now he talks about how you actually achieve time travel. Now, here's where we're going to get into an argument. It's going to get ugly. Here's what he says.
Okay.
According to T2, the trick is to exceed the speed of light. Now, Einstein said you can't actually do that, and I don't understand why or why not. We won't get into that. But apparently, though, when you pass 186,000 miles per second, he says it's possible to dial in space-time coordinates, like GPS, I guess, and that you get these coordinates in, and these coordinates can be matched by the TR-3B. And what it is, it's matching the resonance of the coordinates. So these coordinates in time and space have a resonance, and they can pick up on that. Like December 4th, 1983 has a resonance. Is that what they're trying to say?
Well, I don't think that's too far off. When we've talked about the subject of frequencies, and I'm sure the universe vibrates at a certain frequency over time, and so if you know how the universe vibrated at a certain time period, then you could dial it in at that time.
How is time a destination?
Well, I mean...
here we go.
See, here we go.
Here we go. My poor little liberal arts brain can't comprehend science and math. Maybe that's just a problem.
We perceive time as a linear passage from A to B.
Because it makes sense that way.
And then there are those who believe that time is time, meaning it's all happening.
So 1982 is happening right now.
Yes, everything.
12 BC is happening right now.
The moment you were born, your death is happening. I mean, everything, the Ice Age, the dinosaurs, I mean, there is room for belief that time
Flying cars are happening.
It's happening. And, and then it's gone. I know it's.
Where is it happening? Is it another line of time or?
Well, I mean,
where is it?
It's everywhere. It's happening. That's one of the theories.
How do you get to it?
I mean, one would imagine that you could slip in and out of that time. I guess that dialing it in at the frequency or whatever that they're talking about with this teeter 2.
But if you need to go to a specific point in time and you dial it in as you got to find its frequency. How are they even doing that?
Well, I'm sure over time that they've learned how the vibration is at a certain time and kind of work their way backwards. And over time, they learn how to do that.
Just to give you an idea out there, if you're one or two of you are actually listening, I hate math to the point where if math was a physical object, I would take it out into an alley and beat it to death. Anyway, so going on, I just thought it was really interesting that he describes the experimental craft as something that has been cited for years. The triangular black object with the lights at the different points of where it comes together in the vertices. I'm sorry. So he says that's how you get to points in time. He says you got to get up above the earth and accelerate. He also says that these craft, the TR-3Bs, were built with the assistance from non-humans. He says the photos that were seen in the Belgian skies 1989 to 1990, those were the experimental craft. It's got something to do with heated plasma and magnets. Mm-hmm. I couldn't explain it.
Well, it's basically, if you're talking about the device, it's 2 magnets housing units. I know I'm going to go all nerd on you. Units
turntables
in a microphone. Units for the dual microsingularities, which are microsingularities, which are black holes.
That's the first Teeter's time travel. That's not this one.
Okay, so what it's my understanding they were both very similar in nature.
Well, his you could put in the back of a truck, he said.
Once again, this is the same device, the C204 time displacement unit that you're describing.
Sounds like Hollywood right there.
I mean, it does kind of look, when you see this device, it does look like something right out of Hollywood. Originally, they put it in a 67 Chevrolet Chevette and then moved it to like a truck with having 4-wheel drive on it.
Oh, they couldn't stay classy, huh? Mm-hmm. He says there's another craft they built to go interstellar between the stars and galaxies, and it's called Phoenix 1, and it can travel what would take light years. It can travel it in a moment, wherever, So, and there's illustrations of this in the his ebook. So Tier 2 said he piloted the Phoenix 1 in search of new Earths, because continued life on this planet is no longer guaranteed due to dramatic climate change and things we're going to do to it. Mm-hmm. Okay, now here's where it gets really messy. And listening to Linda and John talk to this guy, it starts to. I can feel their frustration, yet they're trying to be professional. Mm-hmm. My sister made the same joke I made last year, a year or two, about teeter-totters.
We did a commercial.
And teeter-tots, yeah, we did that.
John's teeter-tot.
This guy, while he's telling us this stuff, is, Linda will stop and ask him a question. He goes, because she's trying to get all this timeline straight. So she said, so you left this time and you went to this time and they told you, don't come back to where you originated, go to here. And they're trying to get it straight, and he'll say, they'll go, now is this correct? And he'll go, yeah. What the heck is that all about?
What kind of answer is that?
The way, okay, I understand we can't all be gifted, orators. We can't all be, we can't all have public speaking skills. Some of us are just not, like myself, we're not,
I understand.
Trained. We're not, we're not naturals.
We're not trained to be broadcasters,
and just because you can doesn't mean you should, but we're doing it anyway, so there you go. But this guy does not do himself any favors by sounding hesitant, by pausing so long as if he's trying to get his thoughts together to get an answer out. Now, it could be that he's nervous, that he's worried about the consequences of what he says.
To your knowledge, did he seem like he was nervous to you?
And he just sounded like he didn't know anything to me.
And this goes back to...
And I hate to say stuff like that about people.
The consistency of stories. When somebody, to believe something, you have a consistent story. Like, for example... And if
you just wrote a book about it, why don't you know it?
Like Travis Walton. His story is consistent.
I'll take your word for it. I'm not familiar.
But I'm giving you an example of somebody who brings credibility to what his story is all about. With this T2 guy, his story doesn't seem, although the elements are there, the way he presents it doesn't give him credibility. And so while listening to him, I'm feeling the angst that's coming from Linda about, okay, why is this? Why is this? I mean, you're not...
And John's like, no, he'll step and go, now, wait a minute, So I felt her pain on this. So he said he did that experimental craft to go interstellar in search of new Earths. Now, in 1979, he was in 1979, and he was told to travel 71 years into the future, which would be 2050. And he says he got to 2050 and it was hell on earth. I'm amazed we lasted that long, to tell you the truth. That's really optimistic. Now, it cost millions to make these craft. The small version and the interstellar one was the size of a football field, however large that is.
For a second there, I thought you were going to say sports model, and all of a sudden I was thinking of Bob Lazar again. But anyway, go on.
Yeah, you got your sports model, two-seater, and I guess then you've got your minivan. So Tier 2 says that photos people have taken of black triangular craft with the large round nuts, those are the TR-3B. So they go to 2050. And they take the photographs of the Earth's surface. They take water samples, air samples, and part of the tests they run, like I said, was how people react. But when they went to the future, they were covert about it. They said they have the technology on this craft to be, in orbit, but still be able to read the letters on a pack of cigarettes laying on the ground, which I think they can do now, actually. He says going the speed of light's not that difficult, as long as you don't hit anything along the way, like I guess insects or a bug. I don't know. He says the outer hull of the craft is not thick and only lightly armored. You just hit the coordinates. The computer does the rest. Can't wrap my head around this. It's just too abstract for me. Now, he says there is a hum you hear, and the exterior lights will become blurred once you're going the speed. And you only have to go the speed of light to get to the moon or Mars.
So, Surlana, before we go to break here, let me ask you a question. If I turn my lights on while I'm going light speed, will I see him?
Stop stealing jokes from Stephen Wright.
You're listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network. I'm Spaceboy.
I'm still here.
Believe it or not, she is. And she's quite the trooper. We love her. She's known as Surlana, my fabulous, lovely co-host.
I'm just here because I don't know how to get out of it.
Yeah, one day she'll saw through the chain.
Yeah, I'll make it to freedom.
Just don't do one of those. Aaron, what's his name? Carey, played in The Princess Bride. What was his name?
Oh, yeah, the Saw movie.
Yeah, Saw. Oh, that was terrible. Anyway, so...
you'll lose your kneecaps before that happens.
So did you want to finish up on the...
Yeah.
Yeah. Shut up.
Well, not much more to go. You know what I was interested is that he said, this Titor 2 says, our government was completely okay with us thinking the TR-3B was a UFO. Right. Like an ET UFO, because that makes time travel, that covers up the time travel, makes it more implausible. So they're fine with us thinking that, ridiculous is more true.
Sorry, I just had a flashback to the what makes time travel possible is the flux capacitor. So anyway,
no, look, don't knock Back to the Future, because I understand time travel in that. When he explains it in the second movie, when he's drawing it out, that I understand. This stuff is just Looney Tunes here. Well,
and I guess my final thoughts on T2 is I don't really believe this guy. I think he's more T3 than T2. My ideas and concepts of time travel, there's... It's an interesting thing to sit back on a lovely day and just ponder and think of the many possibilities. Because I think we're more with multiverse than we are with time travel.
Well, he said he did go to 2050.
Yeah.
And they did aerial surveys, and the waters have risen. What was left of the North and South Poles wasn't much. The seas had risen considerably. The overall temperature of the planet rose 25 degrees Fahrenheit. The air quality was so poor. There was high humidity. Most of the coastal cities were underwater. They said they could tap into the internet then and monitor the media. There was a complete breakdown of society. The police were ineffective. Medical facilities were pushed to the limit. Food was scarce. Food can't be grown. The oceans are dying.
Sounds like a Judge Dredd reality.
Yeah. That's basically hell on Earth. So he also said, he revealed that Earth is a convenient spaceport for aliens, and that they feel they can come here, use our facilities, and not worry about being attacked or hassled.
Sorry, I know.
We're an intergalactic Buc-ee's.
I knew I was just going to go there, too.
I see it in your face. Oh, if you don't know what it is, then you haven't been to Texas.
Like, hey, Steve, let's go to Earth. I hear they have some clean bathrooms, yes.
If you've never been on a road trip between Dallas, Houston, or San Antonio, then you have no idea what we're talking about.
Or you can ask our resident expert,
K28, who's never actually been, but says he knows everything.
He owns stock in the company already.
Yeah. So he says, we're a convenient spaceport, and he says they visit Area 51 regularly for maintenance, and he says the tall whites do that, too, at Creech Air Force Base, and they've been doing that since the 1950s. Mm-hmm. He says there was a nuclear war between Russia, USA, Iran, UK, France, and Israel in January 2018, so that's next year. And like I said, his delivery isn't helping his case. Linda asked him a question. He answers it with something else. It's not the answer to her question. So she has to go back to her question and force it out of him. He told her that the government told him when he went to 2050, don't come back to 1978 in your original timeline. Go to 2030. But he says he thinks he went to 2030, but it sounds like he's making it up to me. I'm not trying to discredit the man, but it just doesn't help that he's kind of scatterbrained with it. And if he just wrote a book about it, why doesn't he know it?
Then one could make a reference to him being like Sam Beckett and his brain being Swiss cheese every time he
tries. Or Doctor Who.
Or he tries to make the leap home.
Now, he said they sent an envoy to 2017 this year to Iran, Tehran, and showed the premier a satellite photo of all their aircraft that just shows them, look, we know what you have. Now, this is where it gets weird. So, T2 says the concern here is that you can take a passenger plane, a 777, and load it with missiles. I guess you rip the seats out, and you convert it to carry a missile loaded with a warhead. And I'm just telling you what the guy said. I don't know what this means, if this is feasible. He says you get this plane, fly it 100 feet above and 150 feet behind another passenger aircraft in normal flight lanes, and both planes will appear as one blip on the radar. I'm just telling you what he said. I don't know if that's possible or true. That's beyond my comprehension.
Well, let's...
but that was the concern, that I guess Iran would do that, and they were going to show them, like, we know what you're up to. Here's the photos to prove it.
So let's wrap this part up. And what are your final thoughts?
Just a muddled story. I'm tempted to get the book so I can do a book report on it for y'all, if you're interested. And I'll tell you what the book said and see if it's as disjointed as his delivery. Mm-hmm. I read the reviews on Amazon for his book, and the readers say the spelling and grammar errors damage his credibility, but that's a lot of people that self-publish. That's not just him, so I'll forgive him for that. John presses him to go back and clarify his story several times because it gets muddied. So he and Linda spent a lot of time just trying to straighten out the timelines that he said he did. Like I said, his lengthy pauses and the way he gives delivery. I swear I can picture this man sitting in a chair with a button-up shirt, stroking a white cat like a Bond villain.
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
And so I can kind of feel their frustration while they're talking to him. So I'm guessing we just need to read the book. So, that's pretty much for T2, unless I can go read his book. I think that's something I might attempt soon.
Well, we will look forward to your take on that in the future.
We'll do a book report night.
Okay. So you've got one little nugget left, and it's not much, but,
well,
it's a fascinating story. And
I don't have much to tell you because I listened to an audio interview, and I must have come off of her site.
Mm-hmm. That's
years ago.
Where I found it, too, was off her site.
And then I couldn't find it again, but then I didn't have a paid subscription. I don't know if that's the problem, but you have a paid subscription. I logged in as you, and I still couldn't find it.
And that's a paid subscription to where?
Earthfiles.com, her site.
Mm-hmm.
I found a YouTube, it was a YouTube video, but it was just audio of this story weeks ago, and suddenly it's gone. Can't find it again. Can't find it in my history. Because YouTube will keep a history of what you've seen.
You mean there's a conspiracy of missing?
I don't know. It's just gone. I Googled it. I got on DuckDuckGo. I got on another search engine. It's just gone. And it's very strange, and I'm guessing maybe it's obscure.
Mm-hmm. Well, why don't you briefly tell the story real quick?
Basically, a truck driver called Linda and told him about, I suppose maybe it was a mutilation in progress.
Mm-hmm.
Or basically, a creature was attacking this cow as he was driving by in his truck in the middle of the night. And there was also a strange light in the sky. And he had pulled over to watch this thing, and I can't even begin to describe it. It's Lovecraftian in its weirdness, the way he describes it. And I cannot find this interview anywhere. If you ever find it, please feel free to email me.
They describe the creature as like part scorpion-like and...
Yeah. And I forget what other part. And it was wrapped around this cow real good. Like it was on top, but something was wrapped around underneath its head, and it had its head pulled way off to one side, away from the road, like it was turned away. And he was horrified.
Well, the cow was under distress.
He was, yeah. It was just one of the more startling testimonies or stories, if you don't believe it, that I have heard her do, because it's like reading Lovecraft to me. It's that level of unease and discomfort you get, and you just like, I don't want to hear anymore, type of stuff.
Well, it definitely is a fascinating story, and if any of our space cadets can find it, let Surlana know.
Surlana at spaceboyuniverse.com.
Because she would love to follow up on
or
this.
contact at spaceboyuniverse.com if that's easier.
Now, I guess I'm going to say that that's pretty much you can find Linda out there, especially through earthfiles.com is her site.
That's the best way.
And if you ever want to reach out to her, you can contact her at earthfiles@earthfiles.com. And, of course, she's got a Facebook page out there. And, she's in Twitter.
She's on Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter.
I don't think she posts very much. She's also, I think she's on Tumblr as well, but...
But, just, let her know, Space Cadets, that we love Linda, and we've appreciated every moment that she's provided us interesting interviews. And
she's still at it.
And she's still at it, and doesn't look like she's going to stop. So, but yeah, just...
I'd like to interview her about non-alien stuff for a little bit, like about journalism and research and... being a woman in the field, and what keeps her going. How does she develop her process and her methods? Before I would get to any of the things she's covered.
Well, I mean, yeah, the obvious, unobvious questions for her that she hasn't been asked. To get to know Linda.
Like to interview her about her as a person.
Right. I mean, so fascinating, the rich history that, over her lifespan. I think she was a Miss America pageant contestant. Yeah. I
saw a photo.
That just blows my mind, and not to say that she couldn't have done it. It just, it just goes to show you how diverse and how capable she can be, this or that. And, she proves that you can do anything you want to once you set your mind to it. So, but anyway, so that's Linda talk. And, phone lines are still open if you want to call.
I'm not going to make the announcement till we're about to go off the air.
Well, this is the point where I'm saying, I'm looking at the clock and now's the time to talk about, I guess, Surlana's given me the aloha sign, so that means we have a caller. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hey, how are you, Ty?
Oh, doing pretty good.
Well, good. I'm glad you called, because you know why, Ty?
Why is that?
Congratulations! You're going to be getting a Space Cadet Funko Pop.
Oh, right on.
And I just want to point out, yeah, no problem. I'll point out that, people, all you have to do to win fabulous, cool stuff from the universe is go to stuff@spaceboyuniverse.com. And tonight, Ty did so, and so
we're supplying Ty with a whole collection, I think.
I mean, we're going to run him out of his own house.
Well, I'm loving it.
So what's on, my friend? What's going on?
Well, I want to say it was a great show tonight so far. And I wanted to say that I listened to all of your album.
Oh, okay.
Unique.
Yes.
And I would have to say the title track is my favorite.
Okay, Unique Technique. Yeah, it's one of my favorites too, because originally some of those started off as commercials originally for Spaceboy Universe, and I expanded on them, but Unique Technique went in a direction because Surlana is saying, you need more guitar. You need more guitar.
That's his cowbells guitar.
Yeah. So, that particular album it was enjoyable to make. I loved making that album.
The whole album's great. I would say my second favorite is The Name Game.
The Name Game? Yeah, Blame Game or something. Yeah, it's Blame Game, I think.
Well, that's what I suggested.
Yeah, see, I take your advice, and I made titles.
Every now and then I'll get a song title. I'll just write them down and give it to him on a piece of paper.
And then I'll write a song.
Or not, yeah.
One thing I'd like to ask you, Spaceboy, is how would I be able to get a hold of previous albums?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, Ty. You can go to spaceboymusic.com, and on that page, it's a one page which has the player to Spaceboy Music when we have Spaceboy Music nights. But below that, it has pretty much a lot of the most recent albums. I'm trying to think how far it goes back, but
this was not a rehearsed commercial.
Yeah, this is not a rehearsed.
This is not a paid endorsement.
We haven't paid Ty to say this, and. Spaceboymusic.com has a list of a chunk of my of stuff from my vault. I think there's a few albums that are not on there, the way older stuff.
Yeah, the older stuff, which is
which at some point I need to go back and remaster some of that. But so the spaceboymusic.com.
Well, I was thinking more in line of something that I could, pay for and download.
Well, in fact, funny you bring that up, because you can go to that spaceboymusic.com site and download just digital, just like you did Unique Technique. It's the same method where you download. It's there's no digital rights on the music where how you have to have it on certain players like iTunes. You download it, it's an MP3, and it's ready to go.
It's yours forever.
Yes. We try to make it easy.
Excellent.
You're also still on Spotify.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, some of my music.
Some of it.
I've been going through and taking some of that stuff down and focusing more
just
on...
Just rotating it around.
Yeah, spaceboymusic.com is right now the primary site. But I'm getting ready to revamp a lot of music, like Unique Technique is going to be uploaded pretty soon to Spotify. And but I'm waiting for a couple more months before I start to do that.
Sounds great. Also, I was going to mention about the Teeter 1 and Teeter 2, T1 and T2.
Sure. What you got?
In my opinion, I think they're taking us for a ride.
I agree with you.
Yeah. I'm a realist, and in physics, Einstein says that space and time are a continuum. That means they can't be separated from each other.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to travel, like we travel forward in time as we go, but we're also traveling in space at the same time.
Yes, we are. I know Surlana's starting, her eyes are twitching now.
No, you can't separate space from time, and you can't separate time from space. You can stretch it and bend it, but you have to do it at the same time, space and time.
Mm-hmm. Which you bring up a good point here with, like, for example, the planet, a planet. I always like to think of it as being on a stretchy material where a planet is, and as you stretch time, that's a good example of how you can bend it and increase time speed, but at the same time you're stretching it. So yes, you're absolutely right, Ty.
Mm-hmm. It's the curvature of the space-time.
Exactly.
So you look at some of these sci-fis where they're bending space and time. You imagine the sun, and when they did the experiment with the solar eclipse,
mm-hmm.
and they were able to see the sun bending space and time so that a star appeared slightly off. Well, you imagine that it takes a whole star just to bend the space and time just slightly.
Right.
That will give you an idea of how much energy it would take to actually fold space and time.
Indeed. And then you take you take singularities, and the gravity is so intense that the light can't even escape that. So you imagine bending space and time in through a singularity.
Yeah, can you just imagine the energy it would take? Just like you think about how much the sun bends the starlight just slightly, a few notches of a degree, and you think about how big and massive the sun is. That's how much energy you would need just to bend space and time slightly.
Mm-hmm. It is.
So no one's going to go around doing it accidentally, you say?
Speaking of bending space and time, Surlana's eyebrow is really like...
I don't understand any of it, but it's fine to talk about, Don't know the first clue.
I think what it comes down to is, you, Ty, are a lot like me in the sense of, I guess Star Trek really affected our minds when it comes to space in general. And so it's like, I enjoy talking like this 10 Ways to Sunday when it comes...
I would too if I understood it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, yeah. They talk about the possibility, like bending space in front of your spacecraft and bending it and spreading it out in the back.
Yes.
You would have to have a spacecraft. You would have to have a spacecraft like many, many times as massive and energetic as the sun.
Mm-hmm.
To do that.
Indeed.
So I think time travel is probably not possible for a long time. Not until we find a better energy source or a more massive energy source.
Do you think there's any point in me reading that guy's book?
I'm open-minded. But it would be interesting. I wouldn't pay for it, but it would be interesting. It might be interesting to see where he's coming from
and where he's going. All right, Ty.
I always think that if you have a T1 and then all of a sudden there's a T2, then there's an element of doubt.
Mm-hmm.
On both of them. So, as far as Linda's essay goes, I think that both teeters are giving us a ride, but not in time.
Exactly. All right, Ty. Well, thanks for calling the universe, and we'll get. You know how it takes a little time to get things across the border, but it'll get to you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much, you two.
Oh, no problem, Ty. We love you, man.
Yeah.
Well, Canada loves you back.
Tasty Canadians.
Stop that.
Talk to you next time.
Okay, you feel better, Spaceboy.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, you guys take care.
Bye-bye. Hey.
Don't make fun.
We love boot. It's all a boot. But yeah, we love Canadians. And so now, Surlana, we're at pretty much the closing part of our program.
Yeah.
You want to tell...
We do some housekeeping.
Yes, housekeeping.
Well, next week, you're talking about...
Great women in history.
Next month is March. Next month is Women's History Month. And we're actually going to acknowledge that here. But don't flinch. We'll try to make it as interesting and fun as possible.
Look, you've made it this far with Spaceboy Universe, so you know it's going to be a great show.
And in honor of that, we'll be doing Great Women of History, and we'll probably try to do some women you don't know much about. It won't, it's not like, we're going to do Susan B. Anthony again. No, we'll probably do something more recent, something historical.
And in fact, there's been some posts on Facebook of some women that I've never heard of that I've been kind of sending to Surlana, and quite interesting women. And, I'm all for...
I'll have to look those up.
Interesting women in history.
I didn't look at that because I was waiting to get through the show.
Sure.
But, okay, so announcement time. Kind of in conjunction with this, it just sort of happened this way. Spaceboy is graciously allowing me to take his time slot this Friday, at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I'm going to present the first episode of a show called Sweet Tea and Sarcasm with my friend who is going by the name of Suki. But I think once you hear her, you probably know who it is. But it may be a once a month thing. I don't know if this will be live or pre-recorded, but it is the first episode. We're going to talk about the creativity and what we do to try to stay creative, what she does, all the things she does. It's a chick show, but we're going to have fun. It won't be very serious at all. But it'll be this Friday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And instead of Spaceboy music, which is very gracious of him, but it'd just be this one time for the month. So, and
just to point out that I will not be in the show other than just producing it.
He's the tech part of it.
The tech part, you will not.
He will be. He'll have his earbuds in and watching something on Netflix while that's happening.
Following my nails. But yeah, so I'm proud of Surlana to branch out on her own and to take this opportunity.
Don't know if this will be an ongoing thing because of her schedule. She's got a busy life. Mm-hmm.
But the fact is that you're going to get a chance to have Surlana do her own show with
a best friend.
With a best friend. And
come on now. Got to get some vodka. Oh, so do I.
So, yeah, that's going to be fun.
I
know that there's been several people, when we kind of mentioned it last time, that would I would listen to that show, so I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of that, Surlana.
Well, it's just two of us having fun and, talking about references, and we'll talk about what is repressed Pingley syndrome, because she's been suffering from it.
So it should prove to be an interesting thing.
So we're going to talk about creativity.
Anything else off the housekeeping menu here? I guess you'll be posting the next.
Yeah, it's all happening tomorrow. I'll update the show's schedule tomorrow on our website.
Well, we definitely have some interesting shows coming up. A little shift from Fringe to some history, some tech.
Women's History Month.
More history and...
the 25th might be interesting, too.
Yeah. So, yeah, just stay tuned to Spaceboy Universe, and, you'll get all the coolness of the shows that are coming up here. Am I missing anything else, Surlana? I mean, you're going to have your new groovy show coming out on Friday of this coming. And so anything else? No?
Oh, just... my sister said, I know your co-host once closed her nose in the freezer. I said, I saw her bust through a screen door and break a statue.
Mm-hmm. And fall through...
fall into a grease trap.
So, other than that, I guess say goodnight, Surlana.
Good night, Surlana.
Spaceboy Universe is hosted by Spaceboy and Surlana. Executive producer is Surlana. Social media producer is Dennis Koch. Associate producer is Lee Ann Cordes. Music production is Spaceboy of SpaceboyMusic.com. Special thanks goes out to Lee Ann K, K28, Mark S, and Bob N. This has been a Spaceboy Universe production. Support the universe by exploring Spaceboy Universe with Spaceboy and Surlana. Sweet dreams, Space Cadets.